It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Kind of a special Twig this week. Stacy and Ant have the week off. Jeff Jarvis and I get to talk to Rabble, who is putting together something very, very interesting. We've talked before about his app Planetary, but he's going to talk about Scuttlebutt. Rabble was the lead developer at Odeo, later worked at Twitter, has a lot of thoughts about the social space and a way to make it better for all of us. Stay tuned. A great conversation's coming up next. A lot of history, too, on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 687, recorded Wednesday, October 26th, 2022, Rabble Rousing. This Week in Google is brought to you by Melissa. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox 24/7. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. It's time for Twig, This Week in Google. Show we cover the latest news from Google. In this case, the latest news from the Fediverse. Jeff Jarvis is here. Hello, Jeff.
Hello. I'm so excited about today's show.
I am, too. We have a special guest. Jeff is the Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Ant has the day off. So does Stacy. So we thought, Jeff and I thought, let's bring in somebody who has something to say about this space. I'd like to introduce Rabble. Rabble. Hello, Rabble. Rabble has a lot to say about this space. Most recently,
I have lots of opinions.
Most recently, he started a new app called Planetary, which I joined immediately. Jeff, you found out about Planetary from Mike Masnick, right?
Mike Masnick and Daphne Keller. I was at a conference on freedom of expression, and we were bemoaning the latest news on Twitter and Musk, and they said, and we said, what are the alternatives? What are the alternatives? And the one we came up with, the one they came up with, because they knew, was Planetary and Rabble.
So I signed up. It's a beautiful app. Not surprising, because Rabble has a lot of experience in app design. You've been here before. I like the choice of purple as the dominant color theme as well. Anyway, welcome, Rabble. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been a fan of TWiT forever.
Well, we kind of intersected because you were the lead at a little company some will remember called Odeo. What was Odeo?
Yep. Odeo was the first attempt at building a venture-backed funded company in the podcasting space. We were going to build tools for discovering podcasts, apps for listening to it, tools for making podcasts. And podcast was going to be a thing. We started in 2004.
Yeah, when podcasting started, that was literally, podcasting started in the fall of 2004. My first podcast was October 2004. So, yeah.
So Rabble, tell me about the moment of the pivot when you went away from podcasting.
Yeah, so we were doing a podcasting thing. We went down to Apple and said, let's do a partnership and put the Odeo directory inside iTunes and build creator tools and optimize the interface on the iPod because the iPhone didn't exist then. And Apple said, oh, thank you very much. Those are great ideas. And they turned around and did something without us whatsoever.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. You'd introduced them to the idea.
Yeah.
Odeo was great. We were immediately as soon as Odeo started, we got in the directory. It was creation of Evan Williams, whose name you may remember, and Noah Glass. Evan had come off of Blogger and founded Audio Blog and Pyra Labs. Actually, Audio Blog was Noah's thing.
Yeah, Audio Blog was Noah's thing.
Yeah,
which everyone made fun of him for.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of the Obvious Corporation.
Yep.
I loved Odeo, but it turned out that there wasn't much future given Apple's interest in the space. And Evan did something quite famous. He gave the money back to the investors.
Yes, although I think that most people a couple years later realized he gave the money back to the investors and therefore they didn't have shares in Twitter. So I'm not sure people were excited in the long run about having their money being returned.
Yeah, here's your
All
cash.
I got is his cash card. Yeah.
That's his
Redeemable at
Everybody's like,
Walmart.
I could have had pre-seed shares in Twitter. I think I would have preferred that, but
at the time, it was like an incredibly impressive thing to do. Like, it was high integrity.
it was very generous at the time.
Yeah. Although maybe Ev had in the back of his mind, this stock might be worth more than I'm giving back. I don't know.
What was the time gap between that act and the eureka for starting Twitter?
The stock got given back after Twitter was started.
Okay.
Oh, did? Oh, wow.
So Charles River had a pretty big stake then in Twitter.
Yeah, Charles River had a pretty big stake, although my recollection is that Charles River was the investor that pushed to be given back their money.
Right.
Everybody else was like, we'll let the bet ride. And Charles River is like, actually, I think you're doing a crazy thing. Give me my money back.
In hindsight, that seems so wrong.
They were allowed to come back in at later rounds of Twitter and made money, but not nearly as much money as they had originally.
So what were you doing before Odeo? How did you get into this space?
So what I was doing before Odeo was I was building a bunch of tools around text messaging. I built a social network called TextMob that we were using to do social network updates over text messages, specifically for protests and political organizing.
Oh, interesting.
We used it in New York at the Republican National Convention in 2004.
So you even then, you saw the potential for organizing and protests of this kind of messaging system.
Absolutely. I was trying to figure out how do we use emerging technology for social change. And what happened was at Odeo, when we just got crushed by Apple, we were saying, okay, well, what do we do? What do we want to do next? And myself and one of the other developers at Odeo, Blaine Cook, had been hacking on this side project to build this social network stuff over text message. And we're like, well, why don't we do something that's like this thing called TextMob? And TextMob wasn't right. It was more small groups and you had to use an email gateway. It was funky, but it was a model. And so the whole company spent a week using TextMob, and we used a couple other text message systems, and we explored what would be the future of email and other things. And that was the basis that then went into the hackathons that created Twitter.
Wow. So that was a lot of the inspiration then for Twitter. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the inspiration for Twitter was TextMob, we can do this thing where we have lightweight social networks over text messages. And then we looked at past networks we'd used and what we liked. And we looked at Blogger and the way it had, maybe there should be something that reads and writes at the same time, as a feed reader and a publishing tool. And then we, looked at Jack's stuff with Bicycle Messenger dispatch and status updates. And Twitter was really all of these ideas thrown into a blender.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn at TextMob that you brought to Twitter? What didn't work at TextMob? Because it's very similar. It was text messaging, right? It was SMS.
So the follower relationship that Twitter has, TextMob was a bi-directional thing, and it had formal groups. So you would either join a large group or a small group, and you could send out to everybody in the group. There were broadcasts, but I couldn't just follow other specific people in TextMob.
Mm-hmm.
And TextMob was it was really hard to sign up. And what Noah did was he actually got an old Nokia phone and had some, pirated Windows software and plugged in a USB cable. And that's how Twitter started sending SMSs. TextMob actually used a Java applet that ran an email gateway for SMS delivery, and we would just hide it in other web pages. And so in the background, it'd be, running this peer-to-peer network, sending it because we didn't want to spend any money. But Twitter's use of an actual phone worked better. And then eventually, we actually got relationships with carriers and legitimately delivered the SMSs.
I remember that in the early days, Twitter had a short code, which made it a lot easier. What was the short code? It was good.
Yep, 40404.
That's it, 40404.
Yeah. That's another good joke, yeah.
Were you, at this time Twitter was in San Francisco, were you in that famous South Park gathering where they're on the swings and playing on the playground and coming up with this whole idea?
I mean, there were lots of these conversations. Yes, I spent a bunch of time on the swings. I don't think like
it's kind of legendary now,
there.
Yeah, there's a playground in South Park. Yeah.
We went and got the burritos at the burrito place and sat down. It's since been, I think, remodeled.
Oh,
but so I don't remember that specific conversation. I remember that we had lots of conversations. I do remember that we had a video of Twitter being demoed when it was 6 hours old.
Wow.
And because YouTube wasn't around, we just shared it on the local file system on the local network because we had no other way to share a video. And we've all lost that video. Like the demo video of Twitter at 6 hours old. It's probably sitting on someone's laptop in someone's garage. But, there's an email from Ev saying, download the demo video. It's here, here it is on my file system. Make a copy.
Here from the Wayback Machine is a Flickr image of Twitter back when it was TWTTR. There were no vowels, and the question was, "What are you doing?" That stayed for a long time, and then there's the field, and then these are quote your people, the people you're following here. Including a lot of the names we all know. Biz and
of course,
Ev.
Rabble, it was meant to replace your message every time. In the earliest iteration, this iteration, were those messages archived or did they in fact disappear?
They were always archived.
Okay.
You could always see a history of it, because we saw it as microblogging. We saw it as, lighter and easier and faster than normal blogging, making posts that people wouldn't care about, like writing something more substantial.
So you were there at the birth of Twitter, really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Was there a sense as you're doing this that this is going to be? Because I remember, at this time there was a lot of stuff going on. People were trying a lot of different things in this social idea. There was dodgeball. Remember dodgeball? And I think right around then. We started posting our location everywhere we went.
Who's the mayor?
Yeah, I was the mayor of a lot of places. What was the name of that program? Now I'm drawing a blank. It's amazing. This wasn't that long ago. Foursquare.
So Dodgeball Dodgeball was acquired by Google, and then they quit and founded Foursquare.
Right.
Yep.
Foursquare.
I really liked Dodgeball, and then when Foursquare came along, it was at South by that everybody started using that. And that was very exciting. And for many years, now in hindsight, it looks incredibly stupid and naive. I would automatically post my location as I went everywhere.
No, it's sweet. It's nice.
I remember
Robert.
I'm having a nice lunch somewhere, and Robert Scoble shows up. I said, Robert, how do you do?
Well, that's scary.
I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, I was following you on Dodgeball, and here I am. It was naive. It was very naive. That was a different time.
Yeah, there was also Jaiku and Pounce and Gowalla, and there was a ton of others.
Yep.
Scoble was the first Twitter influencer. He actually, at one point, he had 3,000 followers, and it broke the site when he tweeted.
And he was so proud.
I was at 5,000 followers at one point, which was the most at that time. And then Kevin Rose and I got in a battle over who could be number one. And then some guy named Ashton Kutcher came along. And I can only imagine what that did to the servers.
Now, at one point, now, years later and over time, custom database servers and a ton of code was written to schedule, make it work in a real time, and some of the features were dropped. But there was at one point where if the servers crashed during the day San Francisco time, there was no way to get the caches hot again until the night. So it was just like, if it was down midday, it was going to stay down till everybody went to sleep.
So how long were you at Twitter? How long did you stay there?
So I was there from 2004 when we started Odeo through the middle of 2006. We started the first prototypes of Twitter from February 2006, and the version we have now launched in March. And I didn't think it was going anywhere, and Katarina Fake and Stuart Butterfield recruited me to go over to work
the founders
at
of
Yahoo.
Flickr. They were purchased by Yahoo, and
they were purchased by Yahoo, and they were building a team, and Yahoo seemed like a more stable, better funded thing. And I like the Flickr folks.
Who was CEO of Yahoo then?
I don't even remember.
There were so many.
Was Jerry still, or was he gone by then?
No, he was still there.
Right, but not the boss.
We went in and pitched Yahoo to buy Twitter.
It was Terry Semel.
Wow.
Terry Semel. And so Terry Semel offered $25 million to buy Twitter, and Jack countered saying, I want $100 million. And like last year I was talking to Ev about it, and he's like, no way, we were never going to sell. Just, I thought I should do the meetings. But
was that because he really thought it was going somewhere that it was worth more than $100 million? We'll never sell this.
No, I think he just didn't want to be acquired again.
He'd been through it.
He'd been through it at Google.
He'd been through it. And the blogger team hated being at Google. Yeah. Google didn't get Blogger. Yeah. They didn't get social. No, social folks didn't like Google. It's a miracle
it's still alive.
Yeah, I'm amazed that Google hasn't shut it down because...
Let's not tell them. They forgot about it.
It really looks like the land that time forgot. It looks ancient.
It is.
The Google engineers that were assigned to Blogger hated it.
Yeah.
They wanted to work on like big data and Google search and all these like hard engineering problems. And the Blogger team is like, let's make people connect.
In a way, that's still the problem at Google, right? It's not, if it's not sexy, we're not going to work on it. No, Blogger is, I know.
The Blogger's still there.
But it's also kind of the generic problem with Google, which is if it ain't sexy, we don't, we're not going to maintain an old product. That's the last thing I want to do. I'm a Googler, man. So you were at Yahoo. You went to Yahoo. I was a friend of Jiří Ekstrom when they started Jaiku. I loved Jaiku. I was always looking for the next thing. I remember when, was it Ariel who started Pounce? I remember when Pounce started. There were so many interests. This was a very vital space, and it was all inspired by Twitter, but it was trying different stuff. Jaiku had threaded conversations, for instance, which is something Twitter never did.
Yeah, Jaiku was amazing, and there was a whole sort of renaissance of it, and there was this idea that maybe this Web 2.0 thing should be based on these open APIs, and we should collaborate, and we should make these standards.
Tear my heart out.
And now we're 15 years later having the same conversations.
Yeah. We're more siloed than we were back then, I think, really. Was Jaiku...
We were very open.
Yeah. Was Jaiku XMPP? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Jaiku was XMPP, but Twitter was also XMPP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you could, like, the first Twitter API was both REST and XMPP. So we gave a talk at the O'Reilly Open Source Conference about, like, how to build APIs over XMPP, and we got federation, just like Mastodon works now, between Jaiku and Twitter going and on this API. But XMPP didn't scale well for his API, not the way REST does. And so when Twitter started having scaling problems, the XMPP API was dropped.
Yeah. Scaling was, of course, the big issue on Twitter for a long time, the fail whale and all of that. It was originally a Ruby on Rails project.
Yep. Which was great for the first version.
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what Rails is great, right? MVP, get it out the door. It's, your first line of code, it's running code. It's running, so it really feels good, but obviously it's not an ideal solution for scaling. Were you there in the attempts to scale?
I was there in the attempt to scale. At some point, I, moved across the street, but, over to Yahoo Brickhouse, but I think I had root on all the servers and was doing code commits for till 2008.
What?
Wow.
See, Mudge was right. Holy cow.
Oh, Twitter security was really good by the time Mudge showed up.
Oh, compared to the previous.
The root password on all the servers was the company name and the year it was founded.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
So you could remote SSH in to root with the password Odeo 2005 and get in. And that was also the password for Subversion, so you could commit code. And there were commit hooks on Subversion that would auto-deploy anything in Subversion to production.
What?
That ran tests and things. So, at one point, I was at a conference in Dublin, and I'm like, I can't see @replies. I can't see mentions in the mobile thing. And I just, opened up the code and added it and pushed it, and it just auto-deploys.
You weren't working there at the time.
This was 2 years after I quit.
Oh, my God.
Those are the days. Oh, God.
Was that a naivete? Was it, I don't understand why they didn't have better SecOps. I mean,
this is not important.
I don't even use passwords for my SSH. I can't believe they did, let alone Twitter 2004. Our chief engineer says, be right back. I'm changing Twit's passwords right now. That's remarkable.
I don't even know what to say. I was not on the operations server side of things. I was not one of the admins, but
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is great for you because this is part of the learning curve. You on somebody else's dime, you really get to see what works, what doesn't work, and I'm sure you're sitting there as a talented engineer thinking, this could be done a little bit better. Were you feeling that way?
Well, so at one point there was a very heated argument between the engineering team at early Twitter and the ops team, and rumor has it that chairs were thrown in the meeting room.
Oh my God.
Everybody insists no chairs were thrown. They were just kicked over. But there was some very heated debates about this stuff because, the servers were going down. Everyone was blaming each other. Everyone was trying to keep it up. And, frankly, the security in the ops system wasn't up to the task of what was needed.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay at Flickr then?
I stayed at Flickr at Yahoo for 2 years until Valleywag wrote an article saying I was working remotely from Uruguay, and Yahoo fired me.
Oh man! Oh man!
You were so much ahead of your time.
You're not? Are you in Uruguay? No, you're in New Zealand now. Yes.
I'm in New Zealand now. Yeah.
Nice. So
What
you've
time is
always
it there?
been a little peripatetic. Yeah, it must be late at night, right?
No, it's 10:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's early morning. Okay.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But it's my Thursday.
But it's
so
tomorrow.
I'm in the future.
It's morning tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going through the process.
Yeah,
So what did you work on?
resume,
What did you work on at Yahoo from Uruguay?
Yeah. So I worked on this. One, we got Yahoo to adopt OAuth because I don't know if people remember OAuth, the ability to log in with Twitter, Yahoo, everything else. That came out of Twitter actually, and Flickr not wanting to share people's passwords.
Right.
So I got Yahoo to do the security audit of OAuth, and then we launched this thing called FireEagle, which was a location sharing brokerage.
Totally
service,
remember that.
Which
Yes.
you probably remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I built FireEagle.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So was that inspired by Dodgeball and Foursquare, or was it?
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
Dodgeball and Foursquare is one thing, but what if we could work more on the phone level, get your location, and then share it out, but fuzzed for different applications. So one would just be like, this is where I am, show me what city I'm in, and another application could know your exact location. And rather than each application directly acting the phone where you are, you could ask a privacy layer that would let you see what data you were passing out. It actually was a good idea, but probably needed to be on the phone OS level, not a Yahoo service.
Right. But it used OAuth, and it was interop,
Yep.
and it was secure interop. So it was really ahead. I mean, it was actually a little bit ahead of its time, frankly.
Yeah, and we did some neat privacy things where if you weren't logged in or you didn't have an active session, you couldn't match a user's location with their identity.
Yeah.
So we had some like fun cryptography for some like zero knowledge proofs and stuff like that.
Oh, how cool.
Meant that if someone came and got a copy of Yahoo's database of everything, they would know who was in the database and where people were, but not who was where.
I very much remember using Fire Eagle and thinking this is really cool. And you could use your location on movable type or on other tools. It was a really, really clever implementation. And again, I'm that naive guy who has been all along posting my location every 5 minutes everywhere I go. So I didn't see any issue with location. But it sounds like, Rabble, you've always been kind of aware of, even back then when no one else was, certainly I wasn't, of privacy and security issues. Like, were you already thinking this could be a problem going forward?
Of course.
Yeah.
And there were debates in early Twitter days, like, can you @reply anybody? By that point, by the time @replies and that highlighting got added, I wasn't on the team anymore, but Blaine was there. He built the original Twitter API. He built, added support for @replies and, basically everything in early Twitter Blaine built. And he was like, no way should you be able to @reply anybody. You should only be able to @reply people that you have a social connection with already.
Interesting.
And
Twitter's finally coming back around to that, by the way, which is interesting.
Other folks on the team were like, oh no, we need this thing because we need to be able to get that kind of viral growth and open and what bad thing could happen with someone @replying you.
Yeah. Ask me all about that. I have a lot to say about @replies. Actually, I haven't read an @reply in ages. come to think of it, for that reason, it's a way you can throw poop out of your monkey cage at anybody as they go by. So that's interesting, because that was not the focus of Twitter. The focus of Twitter at the time was growth more than anything else.
Well, the focus of the Twitter was not even trying to drive growth. The focus of Twitter in those early days was just keep up
surviving
with it.
Yeah.
Surviving it. And then, a business model will come in the future. Everything, it was just keep the lights on.
Right.
And don't repeat the mistake of Friendster.
Yes.
And what would you mark as the core mistake of Friendster?
The Friendster was having trouble scaling.
They couldn't scale.
Yeah. And they couldn't scale. And instead of slowly working on iterating this, I ended up actually working with the lead engineer, Ian McFarland from Friendster a few years later. Instead of taking parts of Friendster and replacing it, they did a monolithic rewrite for 2 years and rewrote the whole thing in Java and finally got a version to scale. But by then, their users were gone.
Right. Ev said to me once that when Twitter started, there was no vision of it being this axle for news, that people would report news. And there was a moment kind of when they said, oh, hell, everybody's going to say what's going on around them. Jeez, this is the new wire service, the new news. When did that kind of realization come of the Twitter was more than saying, I'm in the bar?
That was a few years in. Like, it was definitely after I left. And it was, there was an idea that Twitter should be used by celebrities and that it would be good for people who had an audience. And we sent Adam Rugel, who was our sort of biz dev guy, down to Los Angeles to find a celebrity use Twitter. And the only person he could find to join Twitter was the assistant scriptwriter for My Name is Earl. That was Twitter's first celebrity from Hollywood.
How far they've come.
And there was even an attempt in the early years to sponsor the MTV Music Video Awards, which also didn't get any engagement. People didn't get it.
I do remember, though, at some point seeing signs in the credits of shows and into lower thirds at us. It really did start to gain currency. And that, I think, probably more than anything else, brought Twitter to the mainstream.
Well, South by was 2007, right? When it took off.
So South by was 2007, and it wasn't accidental. Like, Twitter rented screens and put them throughout the hallways at South by, and built a custom app to display tweets from South by at the event. So, here on TWiT, we have this IRC back channel, but what the point of Twitter at South by was to basically move that back channel into Twitter and make it visible.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So you have in a dull session, who's in a good one, right?
Yep.
So you're unemployed in Uruguay. What then?
Drinking a lot of yerba mate, no doubt.
So I'm unemployed in Uruguay, and I hang out there. I open a co-working space, run a Ruby conference, do things like that, and eventually Joe Ito reaches out, and I join a project to build a sort of a Pivotal Labs lean startup type studio with Joe Ito and Eric Rees and Ian McFarland, who had been CTO of Friendster and then went over to Pivotal. And, we tried to build a new product innovation lab. So I did that for a couple of years.
Was Joy at a Media Lab, MIT's Media Lab at the time, or was this pre that?
No, this was before he was at Media Lab. Then I followed him to the Media Lab.
Okay, and you were at Media Lab. Cool.
Yeah, I went to join the Center for Civic Media group at the Media Lab because by this point, Twitter had become a big deal. Social media had become a big deal. And I went and tried to understand what had happened and how to do it better.
Yes.
And also, Twitter, by this point, had shut down its open API ecosystem. And that was a huge thing. And that was the thing that inspired me to try and do something new. Because as long as Twitter had its API ecosystem, it wasn't a protocol, but it worked like that. You could go build your own thing.
So that's interesting. So what's the distinction between a protocol and an API? An API is hosted, right? So I have the API. A protocol everybody can use. Is that the chief difference?
That's the main difference. I mean, if you were developing a Twitter app, you would just connect to the Twitter servers. And originally,
there was all those third-party
Twitterific apps, and you would just put your Twitter username and password in there. And we thought that was terrible because people were using passwords, and you have to trust these apps. And so that's where OAuth comes from.
Okay.
Which lets you register the apps.
Right.
And then your authentication stuff stays in Twitter. The thing we didn't realize was that using OAuth protected users, but it also shifted the power from the app developers who were originally they needed users' consent because you just username, password, and you access the Twitter servers, to Twitter and Facebook and others being able to control the apps that are in their ecosystem.
Right.
So
which is how Twitter shut it down.
Yeah. How doing what? Turning off the API.
Yeah, or limiting it. You can only have 100,000 API keys.
Right.
Yep.
And remember, we all remember that some of our favorite clients, they couldn't add new members because they'd used up all their keys and so forth. And it was really the beginning of then. Of course, you've talked about this before, Jeff, because you were friends with Bill Gross. And that really put the kibosh on Bill's ambitions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What he tried to
buy every one of them.
Yeah.
The Bill Gross story is super fascinating. He's the first billionaire or I don't know if he's actually a billionaire, but it's the first like person who said, Twitter's a shit show. I'm going to do something about it. And he had this thing, Uber Media. And
I'm full disclosure, I'm an investor in Uber Media.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened to Uber Media recently, but the idea was to buy up the Twitter clients and then be able to have people cross post and have a site that didn't crash and then maybe had a business model. And Dick Costello and the Twitter, Ryan Sarver, who was running their platform stuff, they all freaked out and shut down their open ecosystem, bought TweetDeck, like basically
under Bill's
went to war against Uber. Yeah, they went to war against Bill Gross and kept the ecosystem, but they they killed they destroyed the village to save it.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting, Rabble, is that Bill didn't do it because he was rapacious. He did it because he loved Twitter. He saw that Twitter had such potential, and it killed him every time the fail whale went up, and it killed him that you couldn't expand it enough. So he was going to show the way and create. His main goal was to create monetization, but yeah, then it got the rug got pulled out from underneath him.
And this was my argument with Ryan Sarver. He's a VC now, but he was running platform at Twitter time. Like, I thought what Twitter should do was make the app developers revenue partners in this. And the Twitter team was like, oh no, we can't run ads through third parties because we don't know if they will cheat the system or everything else. And it was like, instead of making these third party developers people who could make money with Twitter off of the ads that were consumed on their apps, Twitter saw them as an antagonistic thing and fought against them. And a tremendous amount of goodwill was burned there.
Amen. Two questions related to that. And I'll list two possible errors in those days, right? One was Jack said it shouldn't have been a company. It should have been a protocol.
He said that recently.
Yep.
He said it recently, right? Or then the other one is Twitter should have kept the APIs open and done what you just said. What's your shoulda, woulda, coulda for Twitter, both for it to have succeeded then and for it to be safer now?
I mean, I think those are both true. I think that Twitter, by the time Ev and Jack had left, everybody at Twitter forgot where Twitter's innovation came from. And so they thought that Twitter, the company, had done it. But Twitter, the phrase was always, Twitter's too important for Twitter, the company, to run, And Twitter never did any of its innovation. At replies and search and hashtags and inline links and images and video and tweet streams and, Twitter space, everything came from third-party developers in the community. And so the biggest problem was Twitter lost its open API, it lost its protocolness, and it lost the idea that innovation is coming from the edges.
So let's fast forward to today, because that's, I take it, kind of the inspiration for Scuttlebutt, which is a protocol. Is it you've written or your team has written?
I work on it, yeah.
Okay. So it's an open protocol. Others are working on it as well. Yeah. And you're at Planetary, which is your currently iOS only, I don't want to say Twitter clone, instantiation of Scuttlebutt, aka a Twitter clone, is based on Scuttlebutt. And as a result, can federate with other Scuttlebutt services. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so Scuttlebutt's actually a peer-to-peer. It doesn't use federated servers as intermediaries. So what I and a bunch of the other people, not just myself.
This is your learnings, though, from all these years of turmoil with social media.
Basically, all of the early engineers at Twitter, and for the first couple of generations, liked the idea of it being more protocol and more platform-based, and looked at how to build this. And I and Blaine Cook and a bunch of other people were looking at emerging technologies, and we tried to build it on top of BitTorrent and ZeroNet and IPFS and kept playing with it. And eventually, I came to a conference here in New Zealand and met this hacker who lives off the grid on a sailboat, Dominic Tarr, and he had built this social protocol called Scuttlebutt. And I'm like, hey, this is super interesting, except you have to compile your own clients. What if we added a really great product person and made this more accessible? So I went back to Tom Coates, who I worked with on Fire Eagle and was the person that Ev desperately wanted to be the lead designer at Odeo and Twitter, but wasn't able to recruit. And I told Tom, I'm like, Tom, what do you think we do? We start this company where we create this and we design it. And the community said, yes, they want us to commercialize their protocol. And some of the investors said, yes, I believe in this original vision. And, what I didn't realize is how hard the tech would be to build it, because it's, I'm now 4 years into it, and finally we have an app that feels decent.
So this is interesting. So I run, for instance, a Mastodon server, which is essentially based on ActivityPub via GNU Social and Identica and Evan Prodromo. And, there's a long history. But the idea is you run a server. You could run a server just for yourself, but that's kind of a heavyweight thing to do. But you run a server, and then you can put stuff up on the you can toot it, as we say in Mastodonese, and others can follow you from any other server. It's federated. So that's kind of I understand the federated notion. In fact, my first question to you when we started emailing is, well, why didn't you do something on ActivityPub?
And so ActivityPub and Activity Streams are super interesting. They were an attempt to open up Twitter, an attempt to sort of revive that vision of Twitter, which had been federated briefly, and make it real. But ActivityPub has a few problems. One, they never really addressed the issue of verifying content, like who did this thing. You have to trust the federated nodes. There's no way to move between one federated node and another. So if I want to, say, if mastodon.social gets deleted and disappears, then everyone who knows that I'm Rabble at mastodon.social loses track of me. I lose track of them. And there's no way for me to have private messages either individually or in a group between people, between servers. So you have to completely trust whoever's running your server there. And so there's a privacy problem with that, but also it means that you can't just do new message types very easily. You can't build new kinds of applications. So on Scuttlebutt, you can play a game of chess, or we have a clone of GitHub, or,
how interesting.
There's a recipe share thing. It's, you can build any kind of social app on top of it. Now, what Planetary does is a pretty traditional social feed type thing where you can link between data and collaborate. But there are a lot of different ones. And, Planetary is a iOS app, but there are Firefox plugins, and there's Miniverse, which is an Android app and iOS app. So, and you can take your account, your cryptographic keys, and go from the Planetary app and put it in any of those other apps. And then you get different algorithms and different feeds and different structure of what kind of data you're playing.
So right now, when Mastodon,
that is critical.
That's great, because when Mastodon.technology is shutting down as a big Mastodon server, and a lot of people are migrating, and you can migrate, but you have to tell everybody, this is my new fully qualified address. I now live here. It's a complicated process, and you're right. You're not really taking everything with you. All I take now is my key. It's a private key system. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's an ED25519 key. It's the same,
You're laughing, but that's the best key. That's the key I use for my SSH, by the way. Instead
you would
of,
know.
Instead of
I don't
TWiT
know. You know.
2004, I use an ED21959. So you have a key. And by the way, the nice thing about that key pair is they're small.
You don't know.
Yeah. You don't care.
Yeah, it's super small.
Yep.
And, you have... we have these identity servers. So like you can go to rabble.nz and it'll take you to find me. But my actual identity is this key that exists on this peer-to-peer network. It works offline. I don't even have to have an internet connection. If two phones that have the app, or a laptop and a phone, are in the same place, they'll start syncing directly without any internet connection at all.
Wow.
And we've done experiments with Scuttlebutt nodes that sit on the back of trucks that work by NGOs that then drive between villages in Brazil and in Africa.
Oh, that's really important.
Sync to people's phones where there's no Wi-Fi, there's no cell phone service.
Huge.
Everything can go down. The protocol keeps working.
So it's fully distributed.
Yeah.
You know, for a long time, I used a Keybase account to kind of as a proof of identity. Same kind of the idea, but they had to host it, and people had to know I was there. Yeah. This way, I can keep my own keys. Do you run something locally or do you choose a server, or does it matter?
You run something locally. So in Planetary's case, either on the Mac, because we're a desktop app too, or in your phone or your iPad, it stores your keys in your Apple keychain and it gets backed up on iCloud.
Okay.
And then it syncs. Speaking of Keybase, did you know that there's a keys.pub, which is one of the Keybase guys who's gone and rewritten Keybase, but based on modern technology?
Oh, hallelujah.
Based on 25519 keys.
Keybase was a sad story of a wonderful site that got bought by Yahoo, Zoom, rather. It's almost as bad as Yahoo. And it's still there. So this is, so he kept it alive. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, nice. I'm not sure exactly who it is, but some of the Keybase people have gone off and built this thing, keys.pub, which is a rewrite of Keybase.
Nice.
Which it needed because it has legacy. It's fantastic. There's not a large ecosystem around it yet, but I'm super excited about it because it lets us do that thing we could do with Keybase.
So can this interoperate with Scuttlebutt somehow?
It's on our to-do list.
Yeah. Because that would be the goal, right? I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Stacy used to call it the blob, where you have a proof of your identity. And you can use that everywhere. I mean, I guess it's kind of passkeys is sort of trying to do that. You can use that everywhere. But more importantly, you use that to control your personal information and data and, I guess, content and anything else you want, and keep it. It's yours. You share it in any way you want with anybody else, but it's yours. And this really is a solution. I don't know if this is what Tim Berners-Lee is thinking about with his ideas, but this is really the solution, is for you to own your data.
Your vault.
Your vault. Yeah.
And Solid, which is Tim Berners-Lee's new thing, is one of the ways that working on it. The other major insight that I got working on this is that the data isn't the most important thing. Like, the reason Instagram and Twitter even Tinder lets you download all of your data is because that's fine. The data isn't the valuable thing. The connection between people and the ability to connect to them, address them, and find them is the important thing. And so that's the thing we need to protect and also make sure are in the hands of users.
So Rabble, Leo, it's Leo's show. This is not a democracy.
No. I want you to ask questions.
I want to put something out here. I want to jump ahead to come back. Where I want to end up in this conversation, there's so much to go here, but is two things. One, I'm eager to hear your views of Bluesky and what they've just announced and how that fits into this ecosystem or does not, point one. And then point two, with whatever in the ecosystem, Scuttlebutt, Planetary, Bluesky, et al., if Elon Musk, with his sync that he took into the lobby today, flushes all of Twitter down the drain, and there's kind of disaster bat signal, and that was what the discussion was with Mike Masnick and Daphne Keller was, oh my God, what do we do? Who's in a position to do something? Bat signal, Rabble. So I'm eager to hear I don't know, in whatever order, your vision for what could be an alternative and what that looks like, and what does it mean to interoperate, and what does it mean to get our social graphs, what does it mean to hold on to those connections, and so on, and then how these things fit together or don't.
So absolutely. So for folks that don't know, Bluesky is a independent public benefit corporation that was funded a couple years ago, proposed a couple years ago and funded last year. It's got $13 million of investment from Twitter, but it's Jack is the chair of the board of Bluesky. It's an independent organization, and the goal is basically to follow through with Mike Masnick's article of protocols, not platforms.
Right.
That Twitter should be a protocol. We should make something that's like Twitter as a protocol, and then people could build on top of it. That's something that I've advocated. It's something that Jack advocated early on that didn't end up happening. I went into to Jack and Biz and pitched Planetary before we were announced to raise, before Bluesky existed, and say, look, we need to do this protocol thing. And there was this giant debate with Twitter lawyers about whether or not they were allowed to invest and whether or not Twitter was allowed to invest. And Biz ended up investing, but Jack didn't. But the idea stuck, and it's a good idea. And first, it's, Bluesky is small. They're a 3-person team.
Right.
It's, Dan, Paul, and Jay. Jay and Paul were both Scuttlebutt developers. Paul also worked on the DApp protocol and worked on the Beaker browser. Dan was working on IPFS stuff with this company called Fission Codes. Like, they're all great folks and they're doing great work, but it's a teeny team. And I'm super excited about where that protocol is going. Now, there's some design differences that are between Scuttlebutt and Planet, and the app protocol, which are a little different. The app protocol uses keys and signed logs, and a lot of the tech is the same, but it uses relay servers. But unlike the Fediverse relay servers, you have a root key, which you can move your identity from one server to the other. So it inverts the control, which I think is the important thing there. And it then has a space for not all of the feed algorithms and the spam stuff happening on device, but you can outsource it to cloud services. Say, I want to use Twitter's recommendation algorithm, or I want to use Planetary's recommendation algorithm, or I want to use, OpenAI's recommendation algorithm.
Or I can start a whole new company to make just be in the business of recommendations, and you can pay me for it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or and so I'm super excited about the app protocol that's coming out of it. I've been involved with Bluesky not as an employee, but as a collaborator since before it was announced. And this, it's a great team of people, but it's a teeny team that's it's based on the idea that don't get big fast. Get a small group of people who have a long history of being able to figure this stuff out and work on it and build something interesting.
But we have an emergency,
unfortunately,
one could say.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I wish that we were going a little bit faster. But I also wish that Planetary was going faster. Like, every time something comes in the news, I'm like, why haven't I solved that memory leak problem? And why, Scuttlebutt has 2 feed encoding formats. One doesn't let you delete. That's terrible. And we've got the code for the one that lets you delete and the one that lets you do scalable private groups. So you can say everybody who follows me can read my messages, but no one else can. But we haven't deployed that yet because this stuff is hard.
How much investment would either or both of you need to scale into something significant, to be able for people to export things into you and continue life?
I think we need, I think Bluesky's $13 million is the right kind of initial investment to get a basic thing working. We only raised $1.5 million at Planetary. $10 million would actually get us there. We could have an Android app, we could have a full web team, and we can move forward a lot faster. But you work with what you've got. One of the tricky things is when I've gone to investors, one, everyone loves to talk to me because they like to hear the Twitter stories and whatnot. But also, they're like, I'm sure you could build the tech, but how do you get the users? How do you get the users in a lockdown ecosystem where Apple and Google control the app stores and make the rules? How do you get the users where you've got a few big players? And that's a hard problem. But my answer is always be that the big players are going to continue to screw up and sell themselves to Elon Musk, or have, Instagram change it so nothing in your feed is something you follow. And that's going to drive people to look for something else. But the something else has to work.
And what's interesting, and maybe what makes it hard to sell, is that something else is kind of amorphous. It could be a variety of different instantiations. I think the real selling point here is you control your identity and you own your identity.
And your graph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your graph.
And your graph.
Your connections.
Yeah. So the graph one is fascinating. So if we just publish in public all of our contacts and graph and like who we know, that's a terrible idea because it's like spam and privacy and all sorts of stuff. But the answer to it actually comes out of this thing called private set intersection, which was the algorithm that Apple and Google used for their COVID contact tracing app, where you can securely check who do I know in common with you. And now that we verified we know these people in common, I'm going to share with you how to get a hold of them on this new network.
Cool.
And that algorithm of private set intersection, one, it didn't exist when we were doing the original Web 2.0 companies. But we need that because otherwise, if we just expose everybody's contacts to everyone else, it's going to be a disaster. You know, Facebook is right to protect users by locking down their social graph. It also gives them a walled garden and is kind of terrible, but they aren't wrong about protecting users.
So Rabble, what can I today export from Twitter? What should I be able to export from Twitter? First part of the question. Second part of the question, what does it take for you to be able to take it and let us continue life there?
So right now you can export from Twitter, you can find your stuff and you get all of your data, but you don't get your follow relationships. Interestingly enough, the Scuttlebutt app that Jay Graber wrote for Scuttlebutt is an app that lets you cross-post from Twitter and get your post from Twitter and go into Scuttlebutt. So that was actually the app she developed, you know, while she was working as a developer at Zcash. So at the moment, Planetary and Scuttlebutt, it's, you know, it's basically beta quality. Like, it's funky. There's rough edges. There's things that don't sync very well. You can move over, set up your thing called a room server, which is a shared identity server where you can find other people and group a community. Think of it a little bit like a Mastodon server. You set that up, you could use it, you could bring together a community. That all works. And I think we're ready for early adopters. We're ready for explorers. We're not ready for that mass market. No. And that's my worry is that, you know, the app protocol isn't ready for it. There's a bunch of other interesting emerging protocols, PETA Panda, Nostr, one Farcaster just got funding from Andreessen Horowitz. It's not a bad protocol. It's more cryptocurrency focused, but and the thing is, we're all playing with the same Lego pieces, but the question is how do we make the Lego piece, right? We don't have any kit. We don't have any design. There's nothing I'm going to buy the thing that gives me the house and the instructions on how to build it. We're still building all these cool Lego pieces, and we need more apps like Planetary where you don't have to understand how the keys work. You don't have to understand, right. You just go to a web page and click a link and have it connect, and you don't have to understand how the underlying parts work. And to go from, I can set up my own Bitcoin wallet and run it, on the command line to Coinbase is a lot of work.
Are the right people, it sounds like you're in communication with Jay and company. Are the right people talking?
So I think a lot of the right people are talking. We had the Decentralized Web Conference in August that was organized by the Internet Archive. Another group, Unfinished Live, had a pretty decent conference in New York last month. They're not collaborating with everyone. We still lack a bunch of collaboration, and we still need to learn from each other better. And it's not clear if one or any of these emerging protocols will actually succeed. But I'm super excited because these protocols say that what we have is a digital public space. Yes. And that digital public space needs to be run as a commons and owned by various different participants and not run as a shopping mall. What we have now with Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and Snapchat are shopping malls. It feels like a public space. It feels like your space, your accounts, your followers. But the reality is that it's a commercially owned space with opaque rules, no ownership of your social connections or content or your name. And those rules change all the time. And the worst case is people's accounts get deleted, but usually it's algorithmic manipulation or just not being able to, say what you want. And that doesn't mean like hate speech, just like you should own the keys to your own house.
I wonder whether there's a development here. You look at, let's say, podcasts, right? There were pioneers like Leo there. And then companies come in and say, we're going to, Spotify says, we're going to take over this space and we're going to love this space. And then it gets kind of ruined. New York Times and blogs and so on and so on and so on. And Twitter and Facebook and so on. But I think that then it kind of cauterizes the wounds, and out of that can grow new things that have learned the lessons. And my view is it's a very long, this internet thing is a very long-term build. And this mall phase, went wrong, and people like me were wrong about some of the companies here. But out of that maybe comes a new devotion to saying we're going to make a commons and mean it.
Well, we've learned lessons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We had to try these things. And I think the lesson here, and we're, in a way, I think what you're doing is starting over and saying, all right, I got it. I get the lessons we've learned. So if we were going to do this right, what are the fundamental things we have to solve first, and then build on that, instead of just, it was a crazy time, and just cobbling everything together on Ruby on Rails. And I think the problem is right now what you're doing is infrastructure, and it's not obvious even to me, and I think I'm a little sophisticated, how to use this and what it would mean to me, and whether it could replace Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or any of that stuff. And I have faith that it will, and it can, and it should. And that's even more important than anything else. That needs to. It should. This is the right way to go about doing this.
Yes.
And so is that a fair characterization? You're building the infrastructure at this point.
I mean, we've been building the infrastructure for a bunch of years. There's still more infrastructure to build, but if you don't build the infrastructure at the same time that you have people using it, and learn from people using it and adapting from it, then you're building the wrong infrastructure.
Right.
That's the lesson of Google Plus. It's like they went and they spent all this time and all this money, and then all of a sudden the users didn't use the app and the platform the way they wanted the users to use it, and they got in a giant fight with their users and everybody walked away.
Right. And then it ain't a platform, by the way. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the great lessons, as you said, from Twitter, is that Twitter was best when it let its users forge its direction.
Absolutely. So we're building those pieces. We're part of a larger community that's building those pieces. We need users to be testing it out and playing with it and pushing it forward. We obviously need funding in the space. But we also need developers, like people coming in and building stuff and saying, okay, this is what works. This doesn't, I'm going to build my own thing, or I'm going to build on top of other stuff. We're about to release what we call it ScuttleGo, which is a Go language SDK for building Scuttlebutt applications.
Nice.
I like this.
Is this all in Go?
The people who've heard of.
Why Go? Is this all in Go?
So Scuttlebutt is in a bunch of different languages. We have implementations in JavaScript, Go, Rust, Elixir, Java, Python, Kotlin. The stuff we use at Planetary is in Go. I don't want to get into an argument about programming languages and stuff like that, but JavaScript works great in the browser. It doesn't work great as a native app.
Yeah.
And so that's why we built it around this open source library that we've released called ScuttleGo, so that other people can build their own applications on top of it.
Once you see how ScuttleGo works, if you want to write it in Lisp, you can.
Exactly.
You're doing God's work, man. God's work.
I absolutely. I really want to support you. The problem is you download Planetary and it's not immediately obvious what's next. And
I'm on Android.
Well, I got Planetary.
Yeah, so
I love it. It's a beautiful app, by the way. It's incredibly well crafted. I just don't know what to do with it.
So the next thing we're launching are these things we call name room servers. So that's
what you need.
You could
like Discord.
You can register exactly. So you could register leolaporte.planetary.name or whatever domain name you wanted it to be. You can share that URL. People can see your content.
There you go.
What you choose to publish, some of your discussions, but also then there's a QR code and a link that will load you up and connect you in any of the Scuttlebutt apps.
Perfect.
So that they can gauge. And so that's the thing we're launching next week. It's been a long road in the process to make that work.
That's exciting.
But I'm super excited about that because, if I say, find me on Planetary and Scuttlebutt, my username is capital O 473, and I go on for 65 characters. No one will ever do it.
Right. QR code's a good idea. So really, we started this club TWiT, and we kind of naively stumbled into Discord as the place where we get together, and it's turned out this is the social network I always wanted. In many respects, except that you don't control the server, you don't control your identity, all of these little things that you've been talking about. But the idea of these rooms where you get together, all of this makes a lot of sense. It's actually a better space to me than Twitter or Facebook or anything else. I guess it's a little like Facebook groups. This makes a lot of that I can understand. I get my head around. But I also really think it's super important that you own your identity, you control your identity, you can move around. I love the idea that there are a variety of clients so you can have it look like you want and behave like you want. I think you're really onto something here. And the only thing that was missing for me is that one last piece of the end user interface. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Now that I'm here. And I think a room is a perfect solution. I like that idea.
So I was, my son is 15 and he's a big gamer, and I was talking to him about coming on this show this morning. And we had this debate about, okay, how is it streaming, Twitch versus Discord? Because he's a big Discord user as a gamer. And what we ended up coming up with is like, Discord is in some ways like Facebook. You have to be two-way. You can't have there's no system by which you could have a follower relationship in a broadcast system.
Right.
And that's what made Twitter scale. And that's what made blogs scale.
Yep.
And inside the Scuttlebutt protocol and the app protocol that Bluesky is working on, you need to be able to have both. These are the boundaries of the group. So the group has these set of rules. And also, I don't have to listen to you if you want to listen to me.
I don't have to listen to you if you want to listen to me. That's that @reply problem right there. I like
it. It's also what Google Plus was going to do right.
Yeah. Circles.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, I want to just can we take a little, what's your time frame, Rabble? Do you want to get out of here or are you done?
No, it's the middle of the day. I'm fine.
I don't want to keep you from more go, but I'll take a short break, come back, because I think anybody listening now gets a better idea of what this is all about, and it's really very exciting. Scuttlebutt.nz is where you can learn about the Scuttlebutt protocol, scuttlebutt.nz, and there is, besides a lot of information about it, there are also a link to getting started and a number of different clients, including Planetary, that you can use in a variety of ways. And I presume I have a Planetary account. I'm Leo Laporte on Planetary. Can I participate in these other clients as Leo Laporte on Planetary? Okay.
Yeah. So you're already talking to people using all these other clients.
Oh.
And
just didn't know it.
So when you posted stuff, I saw people from half a dozen different clients reply to you.
Oh, interesting.
And so, but the thing with the syncing, and this is part of what we're working on, is sometimes you have to open the app and give it a minute for it to sync. And we need to figure out how to explain to people that it needs some time to sync.
It's not
in
push.
The background. No, it's pull.
Okay. Why pull, not push? That's an hour conversation, I'm sure.
Partially we did pull, not push, because it solves some of the spam problems. So if if you're at replying someone and bothering them a ton and you pull in, like, and they can push to you, then they can start spamming you and you have to deal with that spam. But if you pull, so the way it works is you pull in the feeds of people you're following and then by default 1 degree out further beyond that. So I can see extended conversations of what's going on. And then if something is further out, I start pulling in the feeds off in that direction. So it's like if you're like in a big forest and you have a bright light, you only see the trees that are illuminated by the light at night. And you can get a brighter light and pull in a larger section of the forest and see larger conversations. But if someone is having some, terrible rager with music you hate on the other end of the forest, you don't hear it.
How'd you know that's what I didn't want to hear? That's right. You have a teenage son.
Yes.
The other thing that hits me here is that
hold on.
Scale had to be important. Okay.
I want to take a break. I just have to take this break.
Take a break.
I also should point out that it looks like, much like the barbarians at the gate, Elon has taken possession of Twitter. And that seems to have happened before we thought. The deadline was Friday, so we have a perfect panel to address what is happening now at Twitter. Elon says meeting a lot of
I think
cool
he visited.
people.
I don't think he owns it yet.
Well, he brought his own sink for reasons that nobody understands.
Therefore, to flush it down the drain.
Maybe, yeah. And a beautiful thing about Twitter is how it empowers citizen journalism. People are able to disseminate news without an establishment bias. Ugh. Okay, so anyway, we could talk about that and a few other things. I am thrilled to have Rabble here, who has deep roots in all of this and is doing something about it, which is not something you could say about everybody. I'm really thrilled to have you here. And, of course, Jeff Jarvis. Just a quick break. We'll come back with more. This Week in Google brought to you today by Melissa. Melissa is a leading provider of global data quality and address management solutions. Now, if you're a business, you have an address list, a client list, a customer list. You send your bills. You send brochures. You send catalogs. You have suppliers you work with. All of that is your data. But if that data quality goes downhill, it can cost you a lot of money. On average, $15 million a year in wasted ad spend and wasted billing. Losing track of customers costs you money. Don't waste your marketing dollars. Be sure to manage your budgets effectively and smart. Because, by the way, I got to tell you, the longer poor quality data stays in your system, the losses continue to accumulate exponentially, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. To ensure your business is successful, your customer information, these address lists need to be accurate. High quality data doesn't cost you money. It saves you money. By the way, there's another side to this, customer service. If you've got a customer service line, somebody calls up, they says, I didn't get my package, and you say, you live in Miami, right? And they say, no, I live in Portobello. You're going to say, whoops, and they're going to say, I'm so angry. This is awkward. Melissa recently partnered with ID Pal. They've got something new they call Melissa ID. This is also something you got to do accurately for a variety of reasons. Seamless contact verification in real time. Melissa ID, and it's a unique, fully customizable, out-of-the-box SaaS solution using a multi-layered approach, biometrics, facial matching, liveness testing, address verification, document checks for automated identity verification. There are a lot of reasons you might have to do this for compliance. Anti-money laundering, politically exposed persons, the Bank Secrecy Act. This is a huge part of business these days, right? Melissa's been doing this for 37 plus years. Address standardization, correction, verification. Their new app offers coverage of over 6,000 identification documents across 200 countries and jurisdictions. It's great for any business charged with reducing costs associated with customer acquisition, operations, fulfillment. It's huge for fraud, right? And you may even need to do it for compliance. So you're reducing risk, you're ensuring compliance, you're keeping customers happy, and you're saving money. Why wouldn't you want to do this? Protect your data from decay with 2.1 billion clean, validated records. You could score and target customers with detailed demographic and firmographic data appends. You can complete customer records, adding missing names or addresses, phone numbers, email addresses. And by the way, your data is always secure with Melissa. They undergo independent security audits on a regular basis, SOC 2, HIPAA, GDPR compliant. They can do so much. They can dedupe, by the way. For instance, duplicate information on your bottom line is the worst, right? I used to get 5 catalogs from Restoration Hardware. All beautiful, thick, full-color catalogs, the same name and address. They needed a little deduplication. Melissa's data quality suite will eliminate clutter and duplicates, increasing the accuracy of your database, reducing your postage and mailing costs. So you could do batch address cleaning. You could do identity verification. They've got geocoding enrichments that will convert addresses into Latin long. They've got email verification. You can remove 95% of bad email addresses from your databases. So know@thankyou.com. You can just get rid of that. Lookups. The Lookups app is available on iOS and Android to search addresses, verify social security numbers, access detailed property data, and more. And that's all at your fingertips. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. Easy to log on, sign up, play in that API sandbox 24/7. And when you get started with Melissa right now, you're going to get 1,000 records cleaned for free. This is a good way to see what Melissa can do for you. Get your worst, oldest, cruddiest database and send it over. They even have a secure FTP so you can upload it and get it downloaded, cleaned. 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. Melissa, MELISSA.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa, for supporting This Week in Google. There's one thing I'm a little mad about. Elon is calling himself the chief twit now, which is not true. Not true.
There is only one.
There can be but one.
Twit.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sue him.
You know, we already been through this with Twitter. That's the thing that's kind of irksome. I'm sure somebody with any memory of history or something is going to come down the hall and says, Elon, Lisa suggested he take the W out. That's fine with me. There's lots of ways you could fix it. Change the I to an A, but you can't be chief twit, Elon. We've already been over this. Let me just say it that way. We've already been over this, Elon.
Unless you'd like to buy.
He could buy us, and then he'd own the name. I own the trademark. You want the name, you can have it. I don't know. Can you trademark a handle? I'm sure he's already got the business cards printed,
Yeah.
What do you think of Elon owning Twitter, Rabble? Is this... you must still have friends who work there, right?
Sure, of course I have friends that work there, and I use Twitter all the time, and I care about it a lot. What do I think about it?
You have the same reaction we all do. I don't know what to say.
I have mixed feelings. So one, I think he has lots of terrible ideas. And I think he, having worked with people who worked directly with him, can be quite toxic and difficult, and that sucks. On the other hand, the past companies that he's bought, like Tesla and SpaceX and Solar City, and really PayPal too, because he was just the money guy for PayPal, have become successful companies, and have done lots of good in the world. We have a Starlink internet connection at my cabin in California, and it's amazing. And so before Elon bought Twitter, which now seems like it's a thing, Twitter was dependent on the market and was always at risk of the management team being removed if they didn't do what a set of investors said. Jack said this in some of the text messages he had to Elon. He only had a few percentage of the company. There was no super voting shares in Twitter. And so Twitter was restricted. This was, I had a conversation with Jack right after Trump got elected, and he said, what should I do about Trump's account? And these other alt-right folks like Richard Spencer, should I delete the accounts? And he had lots of conversations with people about this. And my answer was, if Jack, as CEO with almost no shares in the company, goes and deletes Trump's account, then he's going to get removed as CEO. And so we all said, well, Jack, why the hell don't you just do this thing? He's clearly violating the rules. But the market held sway over it. And Elon buying Twitter means that Twitter is no longer dependent on the whims of the market and groups like Silver Lake who are going to come in and do much worse. His ideas about how moderation should happen are crazy. We have no idea if they'll implement his ideas. His ideas about some of the open network stuff are good and interesting. You know, ironically enough, for something like the Bluesky project, he, in theory, I don't know if he's even fully aware of it, should be a big advocate for it. And so I think that ideologically, a lot of Twitter employees aren't going to like working for him. They aren't going to like the political decisions that he's going to make. Twitter employees believe deeply in Jack and where he was coming from, and were very loyal to him. So there's not going to be that loyalty. So Twitter's going to lose a lot of employees. And we'll see. Like, I don't know that it is necessarily the worst thing that could happen. I think Silver Lake coming in and sort of splitting it up and selling off the parts, or, you know, gutting the management team would have been worse.
Yeah.
So I don't like his investors.
It's the most
I don't like the
optimistic
way he does
take I've
business, but the other options were rough.
Yeah.
And you think one of them was inevitable just because of Twitter's faltering financials? Fortunes. That's a good way to put it.
Twitter's never been a good business.
Yeah.
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 Twitter's always been much more important to its users and to society and the news and culture than it has been in terms of making money. And, you know, I'm a technologist, so I don't know exactly why, but, you know, Instagram makes tons of money because the ads don't need to be witty tweets. Like, Twitter makes you, like, you have to be good at Twitter to run ads. And if you're good at Twitter, why are you running an ad?
Right.
You don't have to be good at Instagram to run a good ad.
Well, that's a really good point. I never really thought of that. I think this all underscores the fact that Twitter should really be a public institution, not a private business. It's not a good business, but it's a great town square. And and obviously, you know, no one person should own the town square, even Elon. So maybe this solution is really something like Scuttlebutt and Planetary, and something decentralized, something no one owns, something.
Was that a discussion way back then? Was enough known in our innocent early days to say maybe this shouldn't be a company, maybe there should be something else, or maybe the API is a moral choice, or was it just too early and too naive and too innocent back then?
No, there was a debate back then, because I remember Jack saying that Twitter should be a public utility.
Yeah.
Like, in the early days of Twitter, he went around and told anyone who would ask, Twitter should be a public utility. And other people are like, Jack, stop saying that. We won't get investments. You know, the rumors are that, like, because Twitter had acquisition talks with Facebook and Yahoo and Google and Microsoft, everyone. The rumors are like that Jack's enthusiasm for Twitter as a public utility scared away all these people who are acquiring it. Now, Ev says he wasn't going to ever sell Twitter anyway, but like, you know, Jack always thought it was a public utility and always kind of treated it that way, but we had no model for funding it that way. And, you know, there's a Twitter account called, you know, @BuyTwitter, which is a collection of people who are trying to make users collect the money to buy Twitter. And, you know,
good luck.
got promises of a few $1 million. It's, you know, not close to it.
And try to collect.
There's there's a whole concept called platform co-ops, which says that, these giant platform businesses, whether or not it's Airbnb or Twitter, should be owned in part by the participants of it. And so, the Buy Twitter project is cool. It's not, they never worked, but it's a neat idea, and the platform co-ops are a neat idea. The problem is, like, where do you get the capital to build these things, and where do you get the capital to take the risks? We talked about Jaiku and Pounce and Gowalla and all these other, Technorati, all these other companies that had just as much promise as Odeo and Twitter in the early days, and they're all gone.
Yep.
So, venture capital is set up to take that risk. And you take the venture, but that's, the plus and minus of it. The real tragedy is that we didn't know about the super voting shares that, got set up with Facebook.
Right.
If Ev had known about the super voting shares and realized how important it was and been able to raise money that way and demand it and be able to get through, then this whole conversation would be different.
Interesting. So that's what Zuck did, and that's how he's kept control of Facebook. You think Ev Williams would have been the right guy to keep control of Twitter, that he would have done a good job had he been able to ignore market forces and have those super voting shares?
I don't know. Ev's really hard to work for.
The board at Twitter is notoriously awful, right? I mean, that's what everybody says.
Well, and the board has got all these people who don't
even use Twitter. Yeah.
Right.
Or not publicly. Maybe they use Twitter in secret accounts. Like, I have half a dozen Twitter accounts that I use for different purposes. But, like, the board should be people, yes.
Nor do they have much Twitter stock. They don't have much of a dog in the hunt. In fact, Jack has had the largest share of Twitter stock, and it was only like 2%.
Yeah. But there was a time when the board was better. Like, Fred Wilson was a fantastic board member.
Yeah.
Yes.
And really got it. And I don't know the inside baseball of when he chose to walk away, but, Fred signed off on Twitter being federated. He said, make that experiment, see what happens.
That's very Fred.
And yep.
Well, we'll find out. The fact that Elon's wandering around Twitter untethered indicates not that he's succeeded in closing the deal, but that they're very close. He has till Friday before the Chancery Court in Delaware picks up the trial once again. That's the deadline. So I suspect maybe this time he will own it, which is may you live in interesting times. We definitely, we definitely do. And I'm always impressed. We talk all the time with Kevin Marks and about the open web and indie web, and Cory Doctorow, who years ago told me the solution to all this is for the geeks to stand up, write their own stuff, do their own thing. We know how it should be. Don't let these big money guys run everything. And you haven't taken any investment in Planetary?
So I've taken a bit of investment. I did a $1.4 million pre-seed round led by Bloomberg Beta, who are, as a VC, very supportive of, open source projects. They've been fantastic. And also gotten support from a number of other sort of very early stage VCs. I don't know if they're investing because they think that Planetary will be successful and make money, or they just want to throw rocks at Facebook's glass house, or
they're playing 3D chess with you. I'm surprised that you're taking money. I guess you have to. But don't you worry about the same thing happening to you that happened to Twitter?
Sure, except I have super voting shares.
Lesson learned. I get it.
But a bunch of time has passed. Now, super voting shares among founders for these type of companies is commonplace, and they understand why it's important.
Right. Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Dave Weiner just tweeted 6 minutes ago, "Dear Elon Musk, Twitter should support outbound and inbound RSS. No need to wait for an open protocol. It's already there."
God bless him. Is RSS enough? Is that enough of an API? God knows we've kept podcasting alive on RSS for some time.
It's not enough, but it's good.
It's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start. Even with podcasting, RSS is under assault by Spotify and Amazon and I guess iHeart. A lot of companies just would prefer you to use their app and not use an RSS reader to get your podcasts. And we're dead set against that because what that does is it gives them all this information about you. I can't collect information about you if you listen on an RSS feeder, which most podcast apps are.
Dave's great line to me. I saw him. Go ahead, Rabble.
Well, I was just going to say, I was having a conversation with Chris Messina, who did the hashtag and was around all these things. And we were talking about what went wrong with Web 2.0. And we realized that podcasting is the one major part of the Web 2.0 movement or world or innovation that didn't get enclosed into a centralized platform. And partially it was the benign neglect of Apple. Basically, they built just enough to lock everyone else out and then ignored it. That let this ecosystem thrive.
Yes. When Apple announced podcasting, and I didn't realize it was going to kill audio, but when they announced they were going to do podcasting, I said it's simultaneously the best thing that could happen to podcasting and the worst thing. Yep. The good news is, you're right. They had other fish to fry. They didn't just need to take it over. Thank God. But that's why it's so interesting, because RSS is so simple. But just a simple thing like that can keep something going without being beholden to the behemoths. And it's great. Thank you, Apple, for neglecting us. We appreciate
in a sense, the same thing happened with blogs. I would say is that as we discussed earlier, Google buying Blogger, and then speak of benign neglect, it just sits there with cobwebs, and blogs kept RSS, and blogs stayed independent, and WordPress came in, I think, as a positive influence in the field, and showed what could happen.
We had Matt Mullenweg on a few weeks ago, and of course he bought Tumblr. After all the blows Tumblr has taken to the head, I hope that he can resurrect it. I'm thrilled to see that he's made Pocket Casts open source. He's definitely dedicated to open source. So,
he's been a tremendous force for good in this whole thing, where he managed to build up a large company that has a substantial force in the internet today, and not have it be closed and locked down. We don't express enough thanks for what Mullenweg has done, and Automatic.
I thanked him, but you're right.
We did. We were.
I think the world of Matt. There are, it's a lot of them are old timers, people who have really made a huge difference. Dave Weiner's a great example. Have really made a huge difference in the space. And now I'm pleased to meet you, Rabble, because I think you're one of those guys who is still working on making the internet work for humans. And we need to make that fight, because it is such a powerful tool. It is so good. It is so much you can do with it. We just need to fight for it. We can't let them just co-opt it all.
I'm so grateful for the work you do and for coming in and sharing it with us. It's just what a delightful conversation. So much.
Oh, this is tons of fun.
Great to have you. Good luck with your teenager. We do stream, by the way. You can tell him on Twitch and YouTube.
No, he texted me asking for the URL live stream, and I'm like, aren't you supposed to be in class right now? And he's like, oh yeah.
I think you should get a pass if your dad's on the Twitch. You should get a pass.
Is he a developer too?
Yeah, he's learning C# right now to do Unity. So, because he's into doing video games and stuff. But yeah.
Very cool.
I offered, I'm not a C# developer, but I offered to pair program with him so we can build a game together. Yeah.
Fun. Are you going to do that? Are you doing that?
Yeah, we're doing that.
In CS and VS Code, or what are you using?
Yeah, we use VS Code.
How fun.
That's throwing the ball around the backyard.
That's the 21st century version of playing catch.
Yeah.
So how does it work? You'll write some code and then he'll write some code, or?
I mean, we do this, like, I do pair programming all the time. Like,
interesting.
And where you get a single keyboard, single monitor, both people sitting there, one person you can either have two keyboards or one, but with the one is just one person is driving and the other is kind of doing commentary, navigating of, doing stuff. Sometimes they have a laptop on the side so they can look stuff up.
It's fun.
It's great for debugging and figuring out new stuff, sort of the mid-level of like, typing. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just need to implement it. One-on-one, single programming is better. But if it's like, I have no idea how this works, or I have no idea what it should do, that's when I really enjoy pair programming.
How fun. I think we can wrap it up with Rabble. I don't want to keep you too long. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you for doing what you're doing. What is your recommendation for people who've listened and get it and say, I'm not going to leave Twitter, I'm not going to leave Facebook, but I want to support the idea of having something that's more personally controlled? Should they just download Planetary and play with it, or where would you start?
Yeah, so they can download Planetary or one of the other Scuttlebutt apps. Miniverse works on Android. There's desktop apps.
Hey.
They're all linked to from our site.
So if Jeff goes on Miniverse because he's using Android, he won't be a second-class citizen on Planetary.
No, because you have no idea which apps people are using.
Oh.
I can tell because they, the like buttons are the likes are slightly different, and there's some subtle differences, but you won't be able to tell. And he can. You guys could either join a room or set up a room. You could share your, room account. If he owns it on a device that has Miniverse, it'll connect directly to you. We have tons of different apps.
Some look a little more like chat. Some look a little more like Instagram. So you can pick one that kind of fits your, ethos. But it's the same content all across the board. Yep. Nice.
Well, there's the ability to run on subnet. So we have this app called Ahau, AHAU.io, and it's only for Maori. So it's here in New Zealand.
Wow.
And they run on a separate network. Wow. And it's an autonomous. And the social circles in Ahau work differently because they use Maori family, village, tribe structures. And so you get these concentric circles of encrypted communities, and then the servers that do the relaying, that do store and forward, we call them pubs, exist in each Maori marae. So there's 770 of them across New Zealand. And as your phone or laptop goes into the marae, these community centers, it syncs directly between everyone else. And so
my goodness.
It's really super amazing. And, Mix, who's there in that photo, is one of the developers, and Charisse. So they do development on Ahau here in New Zealand, and they also work on Planetary. And it's just it's a social network and an identity system that is based on their own traditional ways of doing things. And their next step is actually to use their Maori ways of creating identity. So you verify who you know and who your family member is. And the Maori-owned banks and credit unions will use that as your identity verification to open accounts instead of the New Zealand government.
I am getting chills.
So
this is
what should be happening.
This is a perfect proof of concept. If a community with its own unique ways can have its sovereignty and still work and still interoperate, then you've solved something. You've really made something that people can use. Unbelievable. That's fantastic. And the banks are using it. I love that.
Because there are Maori, iwi's the tribal structure, because there are Maori-owned banks, all they have to do to comply with the banking regulation is have a verifiable system of verifying identity. And they go to the New Zealand government and say, look, we have sovereignty over this community. We have sovereignty over this space. This is the way we're verifying who's who. And we're going to open bank accounts and get the unbanked banked, but not because of some, post-colonial government. but because of the way that the Maori have been doing identity for 800 years. And like next week, I'm going to have a call with Mapuche in southern Argentina and Chile about them wanting to use this same system so that they can have an offline first way of doing social, but it's closed social. It's based on their own traditional ways of who do you identify and how do you connect and what you want to do. And so, and the Maori in New Zealand, they're very well connected. New Zealand has a, good internet connection and everything else. But in Chile and Argentina, especially southern Chile where the Mapuche are, their internet connections are terrible. So that offlineness works. And
right.
We also have a deployment among Brazilians in the Amazon with all these villagers and stuff, where again, mostly offline communities who needed their own separate network that worked differently. And that runs on the same protocol that Planetary uses, but Planetary uses it in a much more open Twitter, Tumblr-like way.
I'm just blown away. This is really heartening. This is using technology for people, and it's just fantastic. Just fantastic. Somebody in the chat room said, you buried the lead. but we had to go through all that to get here. And I think that's really, in a way, the whole story, is we had to go through all of this to get to this point. And it's just very, very exciting, the way that this can be used. In a way, this solves the decentralized problem without, it's not blockchain, it's not crypto, but it's similar in that sense that you have keys, you have privacy, and it is decentralized, right? There's no central store of information.
No, there's no central store or registry or things like that. You can either directly peer things. It's local first. You can run these room servers and pub servers like Yahoo runs in the Maori Marais that store and forward messages, but they're not necessary for the network. And so
it's kind of like
for
Usenet.
Example, kind of like that, except you don't have it all flat.
Right.
Apple requires us for App Store rules to be able to block and ban content. And so our app comes back, like the only centralized thing we have is Apple in their App Store rules say that users can report content and we can ban it. And we've banned content. There was a bunch of pro-ISIS content that we banned. There was a user who came on and started forcing gay furry porn replies to everyone. And we banned that. And there were Norwegian neo-Nazis who wanted to make, they wanted to use it, and they wanted, only Scandinavian languages were the only true,
oh dear,
master,
oh my God.
We banned that from the Planetary relay servers and the Planetary app. But if someone, and I never see it, but if someone wanted to set up their own nodes in their own part of the network, that's far off on the other end of the forest, we don't know it's there. And it's kind of like you can, put whatever you want on your own domain name.
Right.
But we don't have to link to each other.
Yeah, Mastodon kind of does that too. I don't have to federate with Gab, and I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. But Gab can exist.
And things can be removed from the Google search engine too.
Right,
you can make it so it's
interesting.
Reprehensible behavior doesn't need to be easily discovered.
Interesting.
But because there's not even a centralized DHT, there's no distributed hash table, there's no unifying element to this at all. And so we don't know how many people are using the network.
Wow.
We have guesses.
Not to turn you into customer service, but I now have Miniverse installed. I put a post up. How do I connect with Leo? I need to get an invitation from somewhere, right?
So what Leo needs to do is go into his settings.
Okay.
And he can either get his name or register with the room server, so he can register Leo or Leo Laporte.
Can I show him a QR code? Is there in the Planetary app? Is there a way? Because my name is
not here.
No.
Capital Z ++0 TL, which is, obviously it's a
This
hash.
reminds me of my days on CompuServe 11734113.
Well, but the whole point is we don't have to know that, right?
Right, we don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you need to do, Leo, is you go into your settings, which is on the sidebar.
Yep.
And it says, like, connect to a room. There'll be a list that says rooms.
Yeah.
And in there, it'll say register an alias. And if you put your name in there,
Okay.
then anyone, and if you put Leo Laporte, then anyone could go to leolaporte.planetary.name, for example.
Oh, so it does give me
Jeff.
a canonical name on the Planetary server. All right, so let me.
Yeah, but you could like, there could be many of those servers.
So I could have many names. Which is beautiful.
Yeah, you can have many names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
All right, I'll get the remedial from Leo later.
Well,
yeah, and then once that's registered, Jeff, you just go to in your browser,
Right.
leolaporte.planetary.name, and it'll say, "Oh, you have Miniverse installed. Do you want to open up Leo's profile in Miniverse?"
Brilliant.
And it'll open it up, and you start following him,
Brilliant.
and they'll directly connect to each other.
so I'm looking under settings at web services aliases beta. Is that where I should go?
Yeah, it's definitely beta. Like,
Yeah. Register a new alias.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
because I can't. I don't know if that's my phone or you, but I can't type into that field. So I'll get back to you.
We will figure it out. By next show, we'll be connected.
But but that's a perfect example. But the beauty of that is you can have as many names as you want. And
Exactly.
and different personas in different rooms. You can be whoever you want in every room. I love this.
and the rooms act as like their persona, but they also act as a way of grouping people together so that you can see, if a room is all of a particular thing. So like we have one in beta called queer.family, and it's all people who are LGBTQ. And so if you want to join that community, you register a name that's there, and then you can see the posts within that community and discover people that way. And
if a
anyone
bad
can set
person
up their
comes
own
in-
room servers.
So
If a bad person comes in,
who has the right to
You
be
can-
able to kick him out?
at the
creator
moment,
of
the
the
person
room?
who set up the room has the creator of the room.
Yeah.
But we're working with the MetaGov project so that the room could set rules for who are the admins and what are the decisions. So everybody's a member of the room gets a vote on kicking someone out or a vote on who the moderators are for this month. And I think that I don't know if you're familiar with the MetaGov project out of Harvard's Berkman Center, but they're doing lots of interesting work and saying we need to move beyond a feudal model of governing online communities and look at all these ways and say, okay, this is this group. They're running a room. People in the room shouldn't just be able to say whoever created the room is the admin of the room, but you should be able to, either put forward a vote and have everyone in the room vote, or decide who the moderators are at the moment, or, be able to recall a moderator who's behaving poorly. And so that's super interesting to me of saying, okay, how do we, instead of saying this is one model for governance, how do we open up the space to say there are many models for governance? And I'm super excited about the MetaGov project and what they're doing with that. I highly recommend folks check it out.
Nate, so excited.
God bless you.
Yep. Yeah, isn't it great?
It's great.
It's just very
This gives me
encouraging.
hope.
Because a lot of times this show we get very depressed because we're just swamped by all of this, big tech being misused and so forth. And Jeff, to your credit, always says, no, but this is, the internet is
Early days.
It's early days. The internet has huge potential. Look at all the things. And, a lot of it, by the way, Rabble, is around social organizing. I'm thinking your handle, Rabble, has a little bit to do with being a rabble rouser. And
I am definitely.
Yeah, I hope you keep doing. Keep doing that.
Keep
too.
rousing, man.
Because
Keep rousing.
I've always thought it's good to be a subversive in sheep's clothing, and that's what I am. So, bravo, well done, Rabble. A real pleasure to meet you. Everybody should, I think, start at either at the Planetary site, which is planetary.social. Or if you're interested in Scuttlebutt, knowing more about Scuttlebutt, you can go to scuttlebutt.nz. Both roads lead to the same endpoint, which is getting on the network, the Scuttlebutt network, so we could talk. And at some point, I think we'll set up a TWiT room as an experiment. Maybe actually a Twig room just for Twig, and maybe every show should have its own room. How about that? Why not?
Then we can connect.
You can have as many rooms as you want, right?
Yep.
Rabble, thank you so much.
That sounds exciting. I'd love to work with you guys to set that up.
Oh, good. And by the way, I now know, because I'm following Rabble on Planetary, that you went out and you got a fancy Sony camera. You got a bookshelf. You did a whole bunch of stuff for the show. Thank you.
I saw you guys talk about Planetary a couple of weeks ago, and I was blown away at the stage and the screens and everything else. And I'm like, I want that. And so I went and started ordering the things, and then we started talking, and you're like, well, maybe you should come on the show. So I'm impressed with all the production quality of TWiT and This Week in Google, and tried to upgrade my environment to match.
Well, you get two thumbs up. You did a great job. You look good. The depth of field is excellent. You got a good camera. You got the Sony vlogging camera.
And Skype room, my Skype room, 10 out of
5
10.
out of 10 out of 10, or they go to 10 or 5? 10 out of 10.
10.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
We give you 10 out of 10 on my room rater.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabble. Really a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for joining us. Jeff, we have a few other stories we can go through if you want.
We could. I thank you for doing that, Leo. I said in the chat,
so
I said
inspired.
wow about 50 times.
I am inspired by this. That Maori example, it just blows me away. Just blows me away.
Lessons from other communities and other cultures. There's hope. There's possibility. And the solution isn't the technology. The solution is people doing good things.
Well, okay, but you got to have people, technologists like Rabble,
who know how to do it.
Really accomplished. Yes. I mean, this guy is extremely good. He knows what he's doing. He's solved problems that you and I hadn't thought about.
Because
he's lived them. Having that history, that background, and the skills to implement is fantastic.
You have to make mistakes. You have to go down wrong rat holes to learn where the rat holes are.
Yeah, and that's important to remember, that these mistakes are just part of the growing process.
Speaking of rat holes, we got news today too. Yeah.
Well, I'll go through it quickly. So Elon decided to call himself Chief Twit. I'm very gratified by the many people on Twitter who have responded saying, dude, there is one Chief Twit. So we'll figure that out. I bet he's getting the business cards printed right now. We don't know exactly what's going on. All we know is what we see on the Twitter. But it does seem as if he is fairly confident that deal is going to close. He still has to get regulatory approval, doesn't he?
I don't know if there's any regulatory approval. In this case, it's not a merger.
It's not a merger.
Purchase.
He's just buying it.
Well, I guess it is officially a merger with X Corp or whatever, but it's not really a merger.
Yeah.
And I saw one story. I don't know if we talked about this last week. I don't think we did. That the banks are going to, rather than selling the debt, which they would normally do, the debt's so useless and so valueless, they're going to hold it on their books. But
they'd have to do junk bonds. It's so bad.
They're going to hold it on their books at a $44 billion valuation.
Wow. Which means they could lose as much as $500 million. Morgan Stanley, the lead on that. We'll see. I mean, is Elon, what kind of welcome does he get walking into Twitter after having announced, I'm going to fire 75% of
I know. Evidently, some executive said you should go up and say hello to Elon. And somebody else said, what, am I one of the 75%?
Yeah. I don't want to say hello to Elon. Thank you very much. Actually, a number of people who worked at Twitter or work at Twitter have said, you know what? I got to tell you, there's a lot of dead wood. It's maybe something that needs to happen. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, a lot. Lots. The engineering teams are massively bloated. A lot of people do absolutely nothing. So we'll see.
There's also a lot of good people there. I mean, that's the thing about
course.
All these tech companies people can't stand. I know brilliant people at Facebook and at Google and at Twitter and
everywhere.
The question is, should they be companies or not? Should they be working in different ways?
Yeah. Well, we'll watch with interest. Maybe we'll know more by the end of the week. Speaking of Elon Musk and Starlink, an interesting use for Starlink. Without Elon Musk's help, some researchers at UT Austin have figured out a way to use it as a GPS system. There are a lot of satellites up there, and it turns out that in order to do it internet access, they have to send a lot of positioning information time information, a lot of metadata that turns out to be useful. Not as good as GPS. You know, you're only going to be able to use it to do a location within 30 meters. But, you know, that's not bad. And it doesn't require any help from Elon. Just in the normal operation of the satellites.
Well, I think the reports were there some time ago, Leo, that like Russia was going to screw with GPS and you wouldn't know where you are and all kinds of stuff.
It's good to have a backup.
Independent GPS, yeah.
Good to have a backup. Spotify, as you probably know, is trying to get into audiobooks. One more area they can own. But you know who really owns audiobooks? Amazon with Audible, which is about 90% of the market. The other 10% is Apple. Apple and Google have audiobook stores. Apple actually sells Audible books. And Spotify's getting a little head up. This is Nick Nir Zischerman, who is came to Spotify from Anchor.fm and has been leading the audiobook push. He says that Apple initially approved the new Spotify app with audiobooks, but then when they pushed an update some months later, Apple knocked it off. And it's been 3 times now because what Apple doesn't want is Spotify to say, and if you want to buy a book, go here. Apple wants that 30%. Yep. And they're going to do everything they can to hold on to it.
It's two companies I don't like at war with each other, which is a little schadenfreude game.
Yeah, in a way I don't completely mind.
Spotify's trying to ruin podcasts. Apple's putting ads up now. Watch what happens now with that. Their virtue about data is going to go away fast.
Let me look at some of your stories. Shutterstock. We talked about how Getty does not want to sell AI-generated images. Well, Shutterstock, another stock photo company, says, we're going to do AI-generated stock imagery, and we're going to do it through DALL-E 2 with help from OpenAI.
And fascinating, they say that they're going to reimburse the creators whose work is used to train the algorithm.
They're creating a contributors fund.
How the hell that works, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that is a good question because that's kind of a judgment call. I guess you can look at the prompt and see if you mention Rutkowski, then I guess you have to send money to Rutkowski in the prompt. He's the one who really is complaining about this. Good news. Playing games actually is good for kids.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. Playing lots of video games may benefit kids' brains. A study of more than 2,000 children aged 9 and 10 conducted by the University of Vermont's Department of Psychiatry. They tested children who game at least 21 hours a week. That's a lot.
Can't you go outside?
That's 3 hours a day, every day of the week.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that's, I would say, hardcore gaming, right?
Yes.
And against kids who don't play at all. The gamers did better than non-gamers in tests where they had to control impulse behavior. Impulse control, do you learn that in gaming? I guess you do.
I guess you want to win and you hold yourself back, I guess.
Hold back. Sniping, if you like to snipe, you got to wait. And better at memorizing information. During the test, researchers observed the gamers' brains, I guess they did functional MRIs while they're playing, showed more activity in regions associated with attention and memory.
See, this technology is not so bad.
I mean, these studies, they come out all the time.
Yeah.
American Academy of Pediatrics recommends kids play no more than an hour or 2 of games a day. When I was a kid, we didn't have video games, but my parents would only let me watch half an hour of TV a day, and it killed me. I was so pissed off. So
I was talking to my new editor at another publishing company. I'll talk about that next week. But she was very much into Neopets.
Oh yeah, so was my daughter.
And she talks about it as kind of a idealistic world and all the skills she learned, and she's elegiac about it. It was really interesting to listen to it. I told her that I'm not a gamer and don't know. But it's. Did you ever read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow?
Yeah, I
think.
Okay. I think there's a whole generation of web designers who learned how to design for the web on Neopets and MySpace, because both of them let you use HTML to design your page. And my daughter's 30 now, so 30-year-olds grew up playing Neopets and doing MySpace. And
was Neopets girls or girls and boys?
It was mostly girls, I think.
Mostly girls.
I was really worried about Abby because she was maybe 10 when she was doing this. And I've told this story before. I said, I'm the tech guy. Privacy, you don't want, are there any adults on there talking to you, things like that? She says, Dad, on my account, I'm a 33-year-old guy from Detroit. I drive a what did she say? Some sort of muscle car. I'm safe. She did not. She was smart enough, even at that age, to not. And 20 years ago.
We don't give them credit.
Yeah, give them credit.
We don't give the kids credit.
I wonder if is Neopets still around? That's so funny. Your editor, she must be in her 30s, right?
Yeah, I think
Neopets is going mobile. What a surprise! So it's still around. You can still play. Big community.
Nickelodeon Neopets. Is that?
Oh, do they own it now? There you go.
I don't know.
Okay. Where did you see
Rabbit
Nick? Rat hole. Okay, let's not go in that. Let's jump out of that. Jump out of that rat hole. Let's see. You put a lot of stories in here. Anything?
I just put the stuff.
What's your feeling on this Wire? The Wire. This is not Wired. This is a site called The Wire, which I'm not familiar with. Is it Indian?
It's India. It's an independent news site in India, and it's a very complicated story. But basically, what happened was they had a leak from Facebook Meta, all kinds of bad stuff happening, and Facebook Meta, which oftentimes ignores these things, came out with very explicit denials of this. And then, as it turned out, The Wire was gamed by somebody. It could have been
The Wire denied it, and then said, "Oh,"
and then finally said, "Uh-oh." And so no one knows yet where this came from. Was it an external force trying to make The Wire look bad? Was it a fabulist within the company trying to make things up? And they're not sure yet, but it's now the evidence just piled up about how this stuff was obviously fake.
They say a member of their Meta investigation team is responsible. So they're blaming. This is from The Verge. They're blaming a staff member. It was subject to deception by one of the members of its Meta investigation team. That was updated. A post updated today. They said Meta had granted an Indian politician special privileges on Instagram.
Right. So this is more than just a fabulous story. It goes into the very complicated politics of India. And I have two students from India right now in our engagement class, and they're worried about kind of a last outlet of independent media now being questioned in its credibility and what that's going to do to the news ecosystem there.
Audio is the white whale of social media, proclaims protocol. A TikTok or Twitter-like platform for audio recording sounds like a solid bet on paper. Can you say Clubhouse?
Clubhouse. I'm old enough to remember Clubhouse, Leo. How about you?
Someday we'll have somebody on who said, yeah, I was there at Clubhouse. Let me tell you what really happened. Audio is intimate and imaginative. The stakes are lower. The costs are more accessible compared to recording video content. Best of all, social audio appears to be new and exciting like it's never been done before. Well, protocol says actually it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
than you think, at least until you nail the AI discovery and audio clipping technology.
And that's what interests me about that. Is there's a lot of talk now about extracting content, using AI to extract content.
When they say clipping, they mean taking little clips out.
Taking clips of the audio and also doing discovery.
They should have talked to me. That's problem number one and has been from day one in podcasting, and I knew it because it's a black box. You can't, if I'm typing a tweet, somebody can quote it, you can read it, but what happens in a podcast stays in a podcast because there's no easy way to share that.
Can't you use captioning now to do a text search on it such that...
Yeah, we've tried. Yeah.
What happens?
So,
somebody goes to it, or it's too inaccurate, or what?
No. I think it's not easy enough. Remember, there were a number of attempts. Google had a text search engine for podcasts. Didn't go anywhere. I was very hopeful because that's the second side of that is discoverability. You can't share it, but also people can't search for it. If this show, all you would see on the metadata for the show is Leo and Jeff talk to Rabble, maybe a little bit about Scuttlebutt or Planetary. It's going to be a sentence or two. That's the only searchable part of the show. Right. And you know what I'd love is a clip of the Maori usage of.
So you have staff. Staff has to do that very manually.
Somebody would have, and we do have. We pay people.
They do that. You do that.
And they put it up on Instagram and they put it up on Twitter. I don't know how valuable it is. We feel like you have to do that, but you can't. But in other media, your fans will do it, right? You don't have to worry about it. They'll share it. So I agree that this is kind of a problem, is discoverability. It's always been a problem in podcasting. If they'd asked me, I could have told them. And we haven't figured it out. So we have two ways we have transcripts. On the Tech Guy, for instance, we have a computer-generated transcripts, which are surprisingly good. A human then goes through it, and we post it. Steve Gibson has an actual human, a transcriptionist, Elaine Ferris.
That still amazes me to this day.
He pays somebody to do it, which he's smart, and it's on his site. And so it is searchable, and you could even Google, you could find it with Google, but I don't think, because it's not central to the search experience.
Well, conversation is just not text.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Conversation is people going back and forth. It's context. It's all kinds of other things. It's one matter of, when Rabble goes into soliloquy about the Maori, okay, that's definable. But when I read interviews with people, I hate the interview format as text. It just doesn't work very well.
Protocol asks, will it ever be audio's time to shine? It's at a disadvantage in our short attention span economy, filled with shiny images and the never-ending scroll. I would submit that's exactly why people like what we do, for instance, because it's not that. Listening is an inherently passive experience, making it more difficult to sell to investors and the average user. Cliff Lampy, a University of Michigan professor specializing in digital communications, said, we're doing something else when we're listening to audio, right? That's not true with either reading or video, because it grabs more of our attention. Okay.
How do I consume half the books I consume?
Yeah. I'm not sure I buy that, but it's a different beast. That's why we like it. I think it's why people listen. Yeah. Because we're keeping them company while they're doing something else. And it's not, I used to listen to audiobooks while I played video games, and I didn't feel so guilty about wasting all that time on video games.
I just read a phenomenal book. It's depressing as hell, called by Jonathan Freedland, called The Escape Artist, about one of the 4 Jewish prisoners who escaped Auschwitz and who did so to take the story outside, and he memorized incredible detail. Phenomenal book. Just probably I'm trying to write a post about it because I think it's the best Holocaust chronicle I've read. Point being, I was so engaged in the book, and the way I listen to books is by driving. I drove around farther so I could get to the end of the book. Which wastes, I'm sorry, to the environment. I'm sorry, that's wrong.
I do that all the time.
Parked.
Well, I sit in the driveway and turn off the engine.
Okay, all right, yes.
Because I'm a responsible audiobook listener.
Audiobook listener.
Is this, what did you think about this? Is MrBeast actually worth $1.5 billion?
I don't know, MrBeast. Have you ever watched a single MrBeast thing?
No.
I haven't either.
MrBeast, I know about him because of Renee Ritchie, who's now works at YouTube. But MrBeast is a very well-known YouTuber who built a massive audience by giving away a lot of money. And he's done other things. He had, let me see if I can find a video of this to give you some idea. He had a hamburger, MrBeast. I mean, I don't know why he's famous for hamburgers. He shouldn't be.
It's like the old days of game shows. You're famous for being famous.
Yeah. He had a pop-up hamburger at a mall. Let me show you the video.
That was right here in New Jersey, and then tens of thousands of people showed up to get a burger. It's just a burger.
It's just a burger. They filled the mall, 10,000 plus.
But it's celebrity meets burger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Here's MrBeast himself. That's the Beast. That's the Beast Man. He says, me, don't show up. Lots of people would be here. You guys. Lots of people are there. Okay, just to give you some idea of his power, 6.2 million views on this Twitter video. Let me play it again so you can hear the audio. Can you hear the audio? There's the audio.
I can't even hear.
It's allowed. There's a crowd. He's like a rock star.
Get burgers, by the way.
This is crazy.
He's like a rock star. What's the story?
It's really interesting what happens with celebrity, because he's not a celebrity of the likes of, Taylor Swift, but he's a big enough celebrity to pull out 10,000 people and have 6 million views of the stupid video of doing nothing but waiting for a hamburger. It's a whole different scale.
So he's 24-year-old. His real name is Jimmy Donaldson. He makes kind of crazy, fun, interesting YouTube videos. And he is now trying to raise $150 million on a valuation of $1.5 billion. Is MrBeast, you know what? I'm not going to invest, but if I were that kind of guy, maybe.
You know, it's the kind of thing where, remember we had Sam Lesson on a long time ago, where he was going to invest in the person?
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to that. I do.
Yeah. He's got 109 million YouTube subscribers, the fifth most subscribed channel on YouTube. Top earners among U.S. YouTubers. He has 5 other channels with another 82 million subscribers, 3 Spanish language channels. I'm sure he makes a ton of money himself.
Right.
He's got a snack. Besides the MrBeast burger, he's got a snack company called Feastables, which raised $5 million on a $50 million valuation. But I guess if you invest in MrBeast, you get payoff.
I don't
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did a real life Squid Game last year, 25-minute video, which many say was horrific. It required $3.5 million to produce this 25-minute video, $500,000 in prize money. In other words, he spent more money on his real life Squid Game video than they spent on the Squid Game itself. So you got to admire the guy. I mean, he's
well, you know, and also it even goes off the old magazine model, right? People would subscribe to Sports Illustrated, they'd get a free sneaker phone. And so you ended up in the sneaker phone business.
Yeah, no.
You ended up in the giving away business.
And that's the one thing that kind of, for me, undermines this a little bit is he's actually giving, so you gave away $500,000. Right. I don't know how he bootstrapped this. He must have started by giving away $10. I think he used to, as I remember, he used to go down the street and give bums money and stuff and like say, here's $100. Change your life.
I don't think you can say bum anymore, Leo.
Once a bum, always a bum.
Stacey
Frank Sinatra called you a bum.
That's right. I am a bum.
You are a bum.
Yes.
Who isn't showing ads now? Uber is going to show ads in the car. I was in a taxi in Vegas. Ads.
Yeah, New York's had them forever. You're trying to find out how to turn off the sound on the damn thing.
So annoying.
Oh.
Apple, as you know, started putting ads in the Today section of the App Store. And in fact, Marco Arment was very pissed off. He is a beloved Apple developer, and he makes a podcast player called Overcast. Let me go to his Twitter feed, because this kind of says it all. And I tell you what, I think when Marco Arment says something, Apple listens, because he's kind of part of that Apple community. Let me see if I can find his...
fanboys.
Yeah. Basically, he's complaining about gambling ads, and everybody's complaining about gambling ads.
You just saw it go up one.
In the recommendations.
No, it was being retweeted. Oh, stop there. Now, what my app's product page shows. There.
Yeah. So what happens is, I haven't seen this in California, maybe because we have not yet approved Prop 26 and 7, which allow sports betting in California. It's still illegal. You have to go to a casino or a racetrack to bet. So maybe that's why, because these are apps that let you gamble on your phone.
Right.
And by the way,
New Jersey now.
Lisa and I go back and forth on this. I'm voting no on this. I hate this idea.
Oh, I hate this. It's a tax on schmucks.
Well, and there's a lot of people with problems with gambling problems who are gonna. This is gonna be a casino in your palm. I hate the lottery. Yeah, I don't like the lottery either. Apple has announced they are backing down. They are going to now block gambling apps. What a mistake! But for the first 3 days of Apple advertising, here's the Marco Arment tweet. It was already bookmarked. Now my app's product page shows gambling ads, which I'm not okay with. Apple shouldn't be okay with it either. The App Store has corrupted such a great company so deeply. They make so much money from gambling and manipulative in-app purchases, they don't even see the problem anymore. Yeah. And by the way,
and watch what they're going to do with data. Your data is not safe on Apple anymore because they're going to start maximizing it. They're not going to call it targeting. It's targeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although why, if you want to download the Overcast podcast player, you'd be interested in sports betting. It's a beyond me. I know why Apple's interested. They get 30%. In-app purchases have become a huge moneymaker for Apple.
That was interesting. I brought in British publishers to talk to American publishers when it became legal in the U.S.
Yeah, because they've had bookies forever.
For ages. And the interesting thing was, Leo, that they admitted that it's a terrible conflict of interest because you make money if your own readers lose money, right? You end up in that position. And what a terrible place for a newspaper to be, is hoping that your readers are stupid enough to lose money.
So Google announced that they were going to work on a system that would allow political campaign emails to get around the spam filters, because for a long time the courts have held, and it's part of our First Amendment, that political campaign messages are not spam. They are political speech. So in June, Google launched this program. The Federal Election Commission approved it. It was launched last month, except the Republican National Committee never signed up. Other people signed up. The RNC just ignored it. Why? I think because they wanted to sue them. They have now filed a lawsuit against Google for putting RNC campaign emails in spam folders, even though Google gave them a way around it, and they decided not to do it.
What's the game?
Oh, I know what the game is, and you know what the game is. Big tech bad.
Yep.
Big
that's
tech bad.
Yep, you're exactly right. Moral panic. Where's Ant with his moral panic son?
Ant will be back next week. I have been playing with the brand new Facebook Oculus Quest Pro. I guess they don't use Oculus anymore. It came yesterday. This is the most expensive VR helmet I've ever purchased. I think it's one of the most expensive on the market.
What's the price again?
$1,600.
$1,600.
But it's not tethered. It's got much higher res screens. It's got better cameras. The cameras can see your hands. They have controllers, but you don't have to use the controllers. And the cameras are in color, and you can see the outside world. Kind of a low res version of the outside world. So it's a little weird. It turns the world on its head. Like the real world looks like a fake world, and the fake world looks like a real world. So it's a little weird, but you can at least walk around without walking into walls. And I'm actually quite impressed.
Have you seen anything application that would augment the real world?
Well, here's the funny
AR
thing.
part.
They offer a whole bunch of productivity apps, none of which I have any interest in.
No.
I'm not going to do my Microsoft Word there. I'm not going to have team meetings there. I don't want to wear it more than just playing. So I played a dancing game, Beat Synth.
We want video. We demand video.
I looked pretty stupid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Actually, I think Lisa posted on her Twitter a video of me with the first game. Say Inside TWiT. Okay, thank you. It's posted on our promotional Twitter feed, Inside TWiT. I first set it up, and the first game I played. Oh, you pinned this old tweet. That's an old one. Here's the new one. First game I played, you have a virtual lizard that you can pet him. Here, let me turn on the sound. You can pet him.
Mushroom tree.
Here.
Okay, so you're starting to play a game.
A lizard.
You have a dinosaur.
I'm in a space. It's raining out. I'm like in a castle. There's a giant mushroom tree, and there's this animal.
And you cook for the animal. You throw a fetch. There's a fetch stick you
Neopets.
throw.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's
You
kind
would
of
like
the
this.
full-size
What's the game you're
Neopets.
playing?
It's called BOGO.
BOGO.
BOGO. 'Cause
Buy
it's
one,
just
get
a
one
silly
free?
game. It's
It
not
sounds like
much
Lisa
to
is
it.
your therapist.
Yeah, she's
What am I
trying.
supposed to do? What? Apple?
She went
You
to
wanna
bed,
eat?
and I
Where can I get an apple?
Oh,
Oh, look. Here's an apple.
okay. It's inevitable. There's no way you cannot be a dork using these things.
Yeah.
But
I still want
inside,
the dancing.
life is wonderful. So I understand we. Are you going to sell these? Yeah, they're in the store right now. They're in the store with twit.tv/store? Okay. In the Twig Slack. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now created a T-shirt in the Twit store the real Chief Twit. Take that, Elon. I want everybody to get this shirt and wear it over to the Twitter headquarters. Take that, Elon. I'm the real, the one, the only, the original. So I wasn't sure, should I change my Twitter handle to the original Chief Twit? But you said the real Chief Twit, right?
I said real.
So thanks to you, we now have a T-shirt.
I now have to buy one.
We'll send you one.
No, I'll buy one.
That might be your Christmas gift.
Oh boy.
This is easier without Stacy getting mad at me for saying things like whatever it was I said. Texas, also, the headquarters of the anti-big tech movement, especially Ken Paxton, the cuckoo attorney general of the great state of Texas, now suing Google over the use of facial images. They said, you didn't obtain user consent for biometric data use in the Nest cameras, for instance, which identify people when come to your door. They've already sued Meta over this. In fact, Meta discontinued its use of face recognition technology last year.
Meta's scared.
Meta's scared of Texas. Maybe Google should too. Texas alleged Google had used features in Google Photos and Google Assistant, as well as its Nest smart home products, to collect and store facial and voice recognition data without obtaining proper consent. I'm not sure what proper consent is, but I know when I do the face recognition, I know I'm told. In fact, on my Nest camera, it said this may be illegal in some states. Don't, you're going to be doing face recognition. Texas has a law passed in 2009, kind of like Illinois' biometric consent law. The Capture or Use of Biometric Identifier Act outlawed the collection and sharing of biometric information in the state without informed consent. I actually don't think that's a bad thing. Google had previously agreed to pay $100 million in a class action lawsuit in Illinois because of the Illinois privacy laws.
What about Apple and your phone? Is it because it stays on the phone? Or?
It stays on the phone. That's exactly right. Apple's very careful to make sure that information stays in your phone.
Which Google usually does.
Or not? No, let's say it can't, because if you're doing Google Photos, well, I guess you could do it on the phone. Apple does it on the phone. I guess you could. Yeah. So maybe Ken Paxton isn't all wrong here.
Oh, don't
but I hate to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No.
All right, what else do you want to talk about here?
Do you want to do a changelog?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
Is there a changelog?
There is one. I'm trying to think what's in there.
I'll
YouTube has a redesign.
Do it real quickly. Play the thing.
Okay, all right.
The Google changelog.
I'll do this really quickly. Google Home web app starts rolling out to view live Nest feeds. Google Home web app starts rolling out to view live Nest feeds. This is a new game we're going to play on the Google changelog.
Can you understand the changelog?
Read the headline and then you tell us. Google Home web app starts rolling out to view live Nest feeds. Older cameras supported. I could always view my
really
live Nest
grammatically
feeds.
awful, but I guess it means you can watch your camera in Nest.
I could always do that.
Yeah, I don't get those. Good. Next.
Google Maps has removed its COVID-19 layer. Mission accomplished. It's over.
Oh, geez. Meanwhile, 3 of my faculty members, my sister just got it.
Take off your masks, everybody. It's over. You are in the new BQ1 arena.
Yes.
In fact, I just read a report that New York's rate of BQ1, which is the new variant of concern, doubled in the last week. It was 8% of the infections last week, was 17% this week. So that's a lot.
It is.
This one is.
So my wife said that Peter Hotez, who's the brilliant doctor from Texas, said that there's so many variants now, we're into Scrabble high-value letters.
Good line. Okay.
Yeah.
Wear your mask, get your vax. I got an appointment for my 5th shot.
Yeah, I got the 5th. Yep.
Shot number 5 on Tuesday.
Good boy.
Wow. And I've had
still
COVID,
haven't had it.
which should count a little bit, right? 2 of our employees had it. One of them completely symptom-free, didn't even know he had it. had a PCR test, and oh, look, you have COVID, but I don't have COVID. Well, you must have, because your test says you do. And another one, I think, got sick at a wedding. So we're
because my sister goes to theater and dinners.
We
and
were in
stuff,
Vegas.
so-
I went to Vegas for 3 days.
Well, that's right. You did go to Vegas.
I gambled. So here, the stupid thing. Lisa, whatever my spouse does, I got to do, and whatever she doesn't do, I can't do, because if she gets it, I'm going to get it. So we have to kind of we have to kind of agree on what
it's like both of you eating garlic so you don't bother each other.
Exactly.
Right.
So we both wore a mask, airport, plane, airport, hotel, completely the whole time. Didn't even eat. Just wear a mask. I think I'm going to sneak some nuts up under the mask. Get to Vegas and no one.
No, of course
no
not.
one.
Of course not.
And there's loud singing and shouting and dancing in the streets. It's all over, folks. So we both took off our masks, and we didn't wear them. And then on the way home, we masked up for the airport again. I don't know.
You were probably safest in the airport, not in the casino.
Yeah, it's security theater.
Exactly.
We played. Lisa did slots, and I don't think I got sick. Google is giving workspace individual subscribers, no, this is not the story, a big storage bump.
Oops, sorry, that's my fault. Yeah, it's going up to like 1 terabyte or something. It's
nice.
15 megs to gigs to 1 terabyte is huge.
You didn't get a terabyte before?
I have a workspace.
The business accounts get a terabyte each.
Yeah, and so I'm only just me, but two of my friends I haven't worked with for 10 years. I gave them Buzz Machine email addresses, so they're still on it, and I'm not going to kick them off. So I'm still on the corporate thing.
Did you know that YouTube had a redesign?
I did not, except I put this in there.
I did not either. Makes it easier to fast forward or rewind to the right part. It adds a very subtle ambient lighting effect if you have the dark theme set. Oh, that's why you don't know, Jeff.
Yes.
Adjusting the app's color background to match what you're watching. Oh, that's kind of cool. And you can pinch to zoom.
That's cool. That's cool.
That is an improvement. Zoom in on videos the way you do on photos.
Oh, the scrubber is neat.
You just touch it and it scrubs?
Well, no, go back on that same video. Just go back a little bit.
I can't tell which is the control. No, that's the.
I know.
I can't.
That's their scrubber. Is that our scrubber?
No, that's their scrubber. Whose scrubber is it anyway?
All right.
I can't. There's no.
That was dumb of me.
There's no scrubber.
Oh, it's a new scrubber. No, Jeff. It's the.
After weeks of testing. Weeks? How committed is that? We tested this for weeks. Is that 2 weeks? 3 weeks? YouTube is introducing the ambient mode. This is what like high-end home theater folks do. They put ambient lighting like from Hue and other companies behind their TV that adjusts to the action on the TV. So it's so weird. But people do it. Scott Wilkinson does it. Thumbs down, John? John's giving it a thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree with John. John's right.
It's called a bias light. It does not change? Scott's the one who told me about the changing ones. He doesn't. He just uses a regular everyday bias light. Okay. Thank you, John. He's defending Scott. He was very animated on that. He really. Well, don't you defame Scott Wilkinson. Okay, a bias light. I got it. YouTube Premium getting a price hike for family plans, $22.99 a month. See, this is interesting because we're all being hit by inflation, right? Prices are going up. I understand the price of gas went up. I understand the price of carrots went up. I understand the price of, what is it? Crudité? I understand that those went up.
Oz.
But... So I feel like this is a little bit of price gouging. Both Apple and Google raised the prices of their subscription plans.
Yeah.
Like, did your costs go up just now suddenly? And why did those go up if they did? This company's just jumping on the bandwagon. Everybody's doing it. Raise the prices. Google Messages tests a new design for delivered and read indicators. Do you use Google Messages for your...
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because I don't have Apple. I'm not cool. Well, they put a new. It disturbed me. it got a new icon for Google Messages, and I said, "Where'd my messages go?" And, oh, it's new.
Yeah, that's the new thing, by the way.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Companies change their icon sometimes, like every day. They don't, every update there's a new icon. Don't stop it.
Yeah.
So this is which one? This is the new one with
no.
Which is the new one?
It has a little quote in a quote. Whatever you showed before had it.
The update. Oh,
there it is. That's on the left. That's the icon.
Ew.
Yeah.
It looks like double vision.
Yeah.
That's not a good. Oh God. And also, is the speech bubble backwards? It looks like it's backwards. Shouldn't it be coming from left to right, not right to left? Go look at a comic book.
Depends on where the character is.
Do they sometimes have the speech bubble coming out the left side of the head? This doesn't look right. Doesn't that look backwards? It looks like a P now, not a.
Well, now that you said that, I won't see it any differently.
It's a P.
Yeah.
And that's the Google changelog. We did it. See, that was worthwhile.
You did it. You stuck it out. I have the world's fastest story.
Okay.
I noticed today that the New York Times got rid of tech from its nav bar. I think that means something.
God damn it.
I don't know what.
That's a bad sign for me. No, mine's got tech.
It does?
Look.
Mine doesn't.
Oh, it's because of you. I'm logged in. Are you logged in?
Yes, I'm logged in. They added, on the right for mine, they added games, The Athletic, Cooking, and Wirecutter, and they had to take something out, and they took out tech.
Oh, yeah. Well, wait a minute. Let me do a hard refresh. You can watch the tech disappear. No, I still have it. You're in an A/B test, my friend.
I sure am.
Because mine has world, U.S., politics, New York, business.
Yeah, David Eisenberg said he didn't have it. He still had it, too.
Yeah. No, you're in some sort of weird A/B test.
Oh, they're seeing what happens if we start ignoring technology.
It changes on you.
Better than covering it the way they cover it, so it'll be fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a real quick plug to join the club. We had a very big night last night. Crossed the 5,000 member line.
Yay!
But don't stop.
No.
5,000 members means if we have, I can't remember what our total reach is. I think it's 4 or 5 million a month. But how many uniques do you think we have? Let's say it's 1 million. I wish Rabble were here. He could probably do the math on this. 5,000 is 0.05%, I think, or something like that. That means
that's about a newspaper conversion rate now.
It's terrible.
The New York Times conversion is up to like 3%.
And public radio and public broadcasting about 5%.
6 to 10%.
6 to 10. So I think we're going to start doing pledge breaks. No, I promise. No, I promise. No, that's
Give
why.
money or Jarvis will start talking about Gutenberg.
A Jim Neighbors box set. Every one of you is going to get if you just subscribe.
You can get your real Chief Twit t-shirt.
Get the t-shirt.
You give enough.
No, we're not going to do that. No premiums. Look at, you know what you get? You get the good feeling that you're helping keeping this show and all of our shows on the air. We had one ad today, and I hate to say it, but next year is really looking bleak right now. We want to keep the lights on. We want to keep our staff employed.
Please.
We want to keep doing the shows we're doing. We want to add new shows. And the club lets us do all of that. The club is $7 a month. That's not much. What do you get? Ad-free versions of all the shows because you're paying us, so we're not going to give you any ads. We wouldn't even hear this ad. You also get TWiT Plus bonus content, stuff before and after shows, and shows we make specifically for the club, like the Hands on Mac show with Micah Sargent, Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott. We've got some new shows in the works if you join. And I really shouldn't downplay the most wonderful thing about Club TWiT is the fabulous Discord. Wait a minute. Are you, Anthony Nielsen, are you going to offer Club TWiT 10% off at checkout? Oh, wait a minute. I don't understand what this is. Oh, if you use the offer code Club TWiT, 10% off your t-shirt.
Ah.
This is, by the way, the thing you don't want. which is that lighting changing as you're watching TV. You don't want that.
I thought he was showing us his
Stop
dab
that.
bar.
I thought it was too. I don't know. No, if you want the T-shirt, use the offer code TWiT. So this is the first time we've ever done this, but I think it's a good thing. 10% off. It's only $22.22. So now it'll be $20.
I think the gray is nicer.
Or $18.99 or something. Yeah, I like the gray. Well, you can look. There's all sorts of colors. There's purple. Ant would like that. There's light gray. There's dark gray. Where's the orange? It's been washed too much and it's starting to fade out gray. And there's no orange. Sorry, Ant. And colors, by the way, sizes, because we know you, go all the way up to 5XL. So programmer size. Here's the deal. That has nothing to do with the club. The club is the thing that's going to keep us going, and we really appreciate all of our club members. We're so happy to have 5,000. Thanks to all the individual members. We also have quite a few corporate members now. All the details, you can even buy individual shows for $2.99 if you don't want to spend $7. And I understand, look, I know money's tight. If you can't, don't worry, please. We continue to offer this show and all the shows we do ad-supported for free, and we will do so as long as we can. Not a promise we'll do it forever, because honestly, it's getting tight. It's getting tight out there. Club Twit is at twit.tv/club. There. And no Jim Neighbors box set, I promise. Okay? Club Twit, twit.tv.
Free gas station sushi mailed to you.
We'll express mail it, so it'll only be a few days old. How about that?
Yeah, along with what was that bread maker you had there?
The roti machine.
The roti, yeah. We'll get to the roti, too. Twit roti.
I didn't make Rabble do a thing. You know what? Rabble's still here. Can I just say that?
Are you serious?
Yeah, he didn't leave.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys know that Twit's supporter, Club Twit, has a higher rate of paying subscribers than either Snapchat or Twitter with Twitter Blue? They're under like 0.2%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, then
you're doing better than Snapchat and Twitter.
As we should. Hi, Rabble. It's so nice to see you.
You're hanging out. I like this. This is like somebody who calls the people who call into Howard Stern and say, "Can I stay on hold so I can listen, Howard?"
Aren't you bored? Well, we're glad you stuck around.
No, it's fascinating.
You're seeing the sausage get made, I guess, is the thing. All right, we've adjusted.
We could have had you talk about all these stories. Jeez.
Yeah. If I'd known, I would have potted you up and brought you in.
Is there a story? I saw you read the rundown. Is there any story we missed on the rundown you want to mention?
No, the one thing, the anecdote that I thought I might mention when you guys talking about like audio and breaking up the audio podcast and things like that, is one of the prototypes we built at the same time that we built Twitter, we called Ketchup, which was social voicemail. You'd call into a phone number and it would know who your contacts were, and you would record a message, and then you would hear the audio message of everyone who was one of your contacts. Basically, audio recorded Twitter. It was terrible.
I love that idea. I want to do that. That's a great idea.
But when I've been playing with GPT-3 and OpenAI and podcast transcript and trying to figure out how to take automated generated podcast transcripts and then convert them into articles, because there's a known form by which you take an interview.
That's right.
And a journalist builds an article. And so many times we have all these podcast interviews that could be shorter formed, condensed articles.
Oh, yeah.
Like the interview we just did with
formulaic.
You. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we know how you would take all of that concept and like some other information, put it together, and you could produce a 1 or 2 page article out of it.
Right.
And I just, I have other things I'm doing, so I can't figure out how to do it all yet.
Text is just another form of data visualization.
Exactly. And then you could translate the transcripts into different languages, and all of a sudden you'd have a whole bunch of articles about interesting things in a ton of different languages.
I feel bad. We're just leaving all these ideas on the table here.
Yeah.
It's true, though. I don't know if you have this experience. I guess you kind of alluded to it. There's a lot of things you can do in the world, and no one has time to do them all, And somebody creative like you comes up with a lot of ideas. You have to kind of, Jobs always said, the most important part of his job was to say no. No, we're not going to do that. It's a good idea. We're not going to do that. There's a guy in our chat room, Gumby, who said he was hearing your phone thing. He said, we did a project like that in Zimbabwe during the repression. We did voicemail allowed social networks to run under the radar because nobody was monitoring the phone network.
I did that with a student in Nigeria where she was basically creating a radio station through phone calls.
Cool. For a while there was, and I knew that they wouldn't go anywhere, you could listen to this show on the phone.
Wow.
There were people who contacted us and said, we're going to give Twig a phone number, and anybody who wants to call that number will hear the show. And I thought, no one is going to do that.
And they didn't.
I don't think so. I don't know. They may still offer the number.
Maybe there's still a phone number. Maybe hello out there.
I didn't say no. I didn't say no. I said, if you want to do that, fine, but I'm not paying for it. It's so great to have you, Rabble. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think if you have a pick of the week, it should absolutely be Planetary. It's a wonderful piece of software. I can't wait to play with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. It was great.
Yeah, I cringe every time I watch someone over their shoulder use it because of all the usability problems and everything else. But we've got to start somewhere.
Was it hard to get approval from Apple?
We did get rejected a few times and we had an argument about whether or not it's more like a web browser or more like a social network. And so that's why we added this callback system to a blacklist. So the only sharing with third-party data we do is the stuff that Apple requires us to send data to Zendesk so that you can do reporting, so you can do blocking. So that part was a little tricky because they don't really understand that it's not a centralized network.
I just got 15 unread posts and a bunch of people following me, so thank you. Thank you. I really,
you gotta hook me
really
up.
appreciate it. I'll hook you up too, Jeff. Thank you, Rabble. Jeff, what's your number of the week?
Well, I got Edelman has a new trust barometer special report for technology. They do this trust barometer. Usually they reveal it in Davos when I used to go. And now this is just about technology. So 76% of people trust the technology sector.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing to me.
That's
and by the
surprising.
way, it is the most trusted sector.
Wow.
Food, beverage, healthcare, manufacturing, retail. So all the, get ready, moral panic about how the technology is awful and everybody hates it. That's the media's view. That's not the public's view. That was my number.
70%.
Obviously, if you include in social media, things go down a little bit.
Oh, that's interesting.
But that's part of it too.
10% less likely to trust the tech sector if you include social media. But that's in developed markets. Undeveloped markets, that may be very different because that's so important. Somebody sent me a really good series of conversations with one of our club members who lives in Nairobi, who says, you guys are a little a lot U.S. centric, and he was talking about blockchain, which I've been kind of down on, but he says you're seeing a lot of it in Africa. UNICEF has backed a venture called Kotani Pay, which provides the infrastructure to pay a universal basic income to refugees living in camps in several parts of Africa. It's not a lot of money, it's $2 a day, but normally those funds, notoriously, he says, those funds typically don't get to refugees. They're stolen by corrupt government officials along the way. That's always a big problem.
One time I went to Nigeria, the mobile phone payment system there is amazing. I mean, it's outside of China.
Well, there's M-Pesa. That's right. Yeah, and he talks about M-Pesa because he also says, this idea of creating a WeChat in the U.S. isn't so far-fetched. There are these X apps in China, obviously, in India, in Kenya, and they're used by billions of people. So, yeah, true. Anyway, Jay, thank you. I appreciate your thoughts, and we will.
Speaking of blockchain, there was a little thing. Somebody, I think it was Gizmodo, tried to say that Bluesky was blockchain, and Jay Graber had to come on Twitter and say, "No, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
I know blockchain.
This ain't blockchain."
We get all that all the time with Planetary and Scuttlebutt as well. It's like we use a lot of the blockchain technology. I call ourselves blockchain adjacent, but there's no mining, there's no consensus.
Right.
We don't have a single unified chain, and we don't. we don't require there to be financial transactions for everything because it doesn't need to be unified like that.
And you don't store things currently, right?
Jay has a great article called Web3 is self-certifying, which talks about how the Web3, her positioning is that Web3 it's all self-certifying technologies where you create your own keys and you validate yourself and then you're validated with others, some of which are blockchain and cryptocurrency projects, but a bunch of which like Scuttlebutt, Planetary, and Bluesky are not.
Interesting. There is, and I guess I should point you to Bloomberg Business Week this week, the issue takeover by Matt Levine, a 50,000 plus word story. It's all about crypto and what it means and what it is. And and I've been told by people who've read it, I haven't gotten around to it, but I shall, that this is a very good primer for people who want to know more about what's going on in crypto and in DeFi and in blockchain. Matt Levine is very good at this, so I think this should be well worth reading. That'll be my pick of the week. How about that?
That's there.
Bloomberg Business Week. Thank you, Rabble, for being here. It's so great to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. What's your son's name?
His name is Camilo.
Camilo. Hi, Camilo.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you on the Twitch.
Do you think he'll make it through watching Dad, or is it like every 15-year-old? Okay, I saw enough.
I don't know. Maybe he will. It is his lunch break right now, so he might be watching.
Good. Hi, Camilo.
Hi, Camilo.
Hey, Camilo.
and all the best. Is New Zealand still very COVID free? Is it still a very safe place to be? We got here during lockdown and had to go through the quarantine in the hotel and everything else. And by February, it had kind of escaped the quarantine system. So now New Zealand is basically the same as everywhere else, except everyone's vaccinated and people follow public health rules. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I see in the chat that you helped out with that Zimbabwe phone network.
Oh, yeah, that was the funny thing. Yeah, I was doing that, and we also did an alert system. There was an NGO that was working with child soldiers in the Congo where they needed so we set up this thing where we would set up phone numbers in Belgium that would ring so you could call in Belgium because the Belgians, of course, were the former colonial owners of Congo. And then it would ring to the local government officials in the Eastern Congo. And so these government officials just weren't doing anything about child soldiers and they weren't doing anything else. But we had NGOs on the ground who were like, we need people in this village and we need this stuff right now. And so we then set up these phone numbers in Belgium and then got activists in Belgium to call. And it turned out that a person speaking French with a Belgian accent calling from Belgium freaked out the local government officials and they did stuff when they weren't just they weren't doing anything when the locals said, you need to act up. And it was like a small little project, but that's
brilliant.
It was like, what can we do with phones to change the world? It turns out that just routing phone numbers worked.
Amazing. Pleasure talking to you, Rabble. Jeff Jarvis, thank you.
Thank you,
BuzzMachine.com @JeffJarvis. And his new book is out from Bloom.
No, it'll be out in June, but you can pre-order it.
Is out in June, is about what I was about to say. From Bloomsbury, you can order it at bit.ly/buy Gutenberg. B-U-Y, not B-Y. B-U-Y Gutenberg. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do Twig every Wednesday afternoon. It's a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us next week, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch live at live.twit.tv, chat live in our IRC at irc.twit.tv. That's where Rabble is. You can also chat with us on our Discord if you're a club member. And, of course, get after the fact copies of the show on demand at twit.tv/twig. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to it, and the best thing to do would be subscribe in your favorite podcast player so you get it automatically the minute it's available. Thanks for joining us on Twig. Thank you, Rabble. Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, Camilo. Go back to school. Lunchtime is
Go
over.
back to class.
Go back to class.
Games, study hard.
Bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands-On Photography here on TWiT TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.